everyone. This is like the one time you get to talk back to me as a group, so that was it. But after this, I won't allow that. So we were having some audio problems, so I'm just talking into the mic to make sure that we're all good. And then at some point, it'll say the meeting's being recorded. Is it being recorded?
I'm waiting to hear from CTN, and yes, the meeting is being recorded. They say all good.
Okay, great, excellent. Well, good evening and welcome to the Tuesday, April 7th, 2026 regular meeting of the Ann Arbor Planning Commission. My name is Donnell Weich, and I'll be chairing tonight's meeting. For detailed meeting procedures, please review the full printed meeting agenda at either end of the dais. And I will note that there are communications in our packet that are not on the agenda. The only way to access that is through Legistar. So you would go to a2gov.legistar.com, click the calendar view, select City Planning Commission, and then go down to the April 7th meeting. That will have all of the site plans and everything that we're going to review tonight. It's attached to our packet online. With that, Manager Kelly, would you please call the roll?
Absolutely, noting there are two planned absences this evening for Commissioner Abrams and Commissioner Adams. Weich.
Here.
Hammerschmidt.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Dish.
Here.
Mills.
Here.
Weatherby.
Here.
Norton.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Manager Kelly. May I have a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Commissioner Mills, seconded by Commissioner Dish, or Councilmember Dish. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the March 17th, 2026 meeting? Moved by Commissioner Lee and Councilmember Dish. Is there any discussion of the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. This brings us to agenda item number 5, reports from City Administration, City Council, the Planning Manager, CPC officers, and our communication and written communications. So we will start with Councilmember Dish, if Councilmember Dish is ready.
The City Council last night approved the rezoning off of Wagner Road of 0.28 acres from R1D to R2A. There will likely be 2 duplexes on those 2 plots that are there, and that's great. And then we also approved the 2080 South State Street annexation. I think that came through here. Maybe it did. No, it didn't. Okay. It will because of the zoning. And we did pass a resolution that the basketball team would win, and that succeeded. If zoning goes that smoothly, we have a great road ahead of us.
Thank you, Councilmember Dish. Manager Kelly, do we have a manager report?
We do have a manager report, and that is that for your April 14th working session, planners Bennett, DeLeo, and Mr. Leonard are finalizing a series of documents that will be provided in advance focused on moving forward with the comprehensive plan implementation, and this will include background information referenced or requested during your March 17th meeting, an overview of engagement scenarios, and also a few options to prioritize where and how the city starts this work. This will be a typical virtual meeting held over Zoom.
Thank you, Manager Kelly. Do any other commissioner officers or committee liaisons have anything to report? Again, written communications are in our packet, but they're only available on Legistar, a2gov.legistar.com. Go to calendar, City Planning Commission, go down to April 7th, click the agenda, and each of the items are linked to the source material. This brings us to agenda item number 6, public hearing. This is an opportunity, public comment. This is an opportunity for individuals to speak up to 3 minutes on any issue not listed as a public hearing or a dedicated public comment on tonight's agenda. We'll first hear from those of you who are present in chambers, and then we will turn to our remote participants. To speak remotely, press star 9 if on phone, or use the raise hand feature if on Zoom. For phone access, dial 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 977-6634-1226. City staff will identify callers by the last 3 digits of their phone number or by name if on Zoom. You'll hear an announcement when it's your turn to speak. Please move to a quiet area and mute any background sounds. For all participants, whether in chambers or online, at the beginning of your comments, please state your name and address. Is there anyone in chambers who'd like to address us at this time? There's so many of you here, so I know they're here for a class, right? Is that the majority? What class do we have tonight? You can speak back before we start. Okay, planning law. Okay, excellent. Is this your class? Oh, this is Commissioner Norton's class. All right, excellent. Let's see if you can get some extra credit. All right, Mr. Garber, I'm sorry.
No, not at all. They picked a good meeting to come to. Ken Garber, 28 Hammond Hill Court. Now, this is completely off topic, but in less than an hour, our president has pledged to launch an attack that will eradicate an entire civilization of 90 million people. And so I have a microphone in front of me. I want to say, please don't. I know it's completely irrelevant to proceedings here, but I think it helps put them into perspective. What we'll discuss tonight is pretty trivial compared to what's going on nationally. So on matters of lesser import, for several years, the Office of Sustainability Innovations has reviewed site plans for compliance with the city's non-mandatory sustainability guidelines. This was helpful, in my opinion, in several ways. It informed developers about more sustainable building practices, including rooftop solar and battery storage, building electrification, net zero or passive house standards, and low-emission materials. Few developers have passed the full quiz, so to speak, but some have made positive changes. The reviews also serve to inform the public and the Commission at a glance on the sustainability features for a given project that's under review, like the ones tonight. Joe Lang at OSI recently told me they stopped doing these sustainability reviews, but he didn't say why. I'm wondering if anyone knows why they were discontinued. I doubt it's for lack of staff time at OSI. Thanks to the climate millage, they have a $7 million plus budget, 21 full-time employees. They recently created a new position, commercial sustainability analyst, and hired a geophysics PhD for the job. So I'm curious what happened to these reviews. My other question is, would Commission be willing to ask OSI to resume them? So that's it for tonight. I realize you can't always respond in the moment, but I wanted to put the question out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garber. Is there anyone else in chambers who'd like to address us at this time? Okay, seeing none. Manager Kelly, do we have online participants?
None with their hands raised.
Okay. Did you have a question about the time in the pink scarf? Oh, yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah, no, I asked you, so you get to answer, which is wonderful. All right.
Yes, if you are here for 805 Oxford, 414 South Main Street, the Southtown site plan at 1601 South State, or 2700 Fuller Road, those each have dedicated public hearings or dedicated public comment periods.
But if you're not here for that and you want to address us, now is the time. Or if you're a student and you want to just come and say something to us, we are glad to hear from you. All right, going once? She did. Manager Kelly did. They did.
There has been a hand raised online since our
How wonderful.
Okay. Luis Vasquez, you have 3 minutes to address the Planning Commission.
Hey, greetings, Planning Commission, and welcome to all the students learning, about how the sausage is made in Ann Arbor. I didn't get a chance to chime in about Commissioner Adams's proposals to the commission and to council, basically. In terms of zoning and moving forward on zoning in a very positive way, I just wanted to, iterate my support for those kind of proposals moving forward for the commission. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Vasquez. Do we have any other remote participants?
No other hands raised at this time.
I will close the public hearing at this point, or public comment, and move us to agenda number item 7, communications from commissioners. Is there any? Seeing none, that takes us to public hearing scheduled for the next business meeting. Manager Kelly, tell us what's coming up soon.
You have 3 known items for your next meeting, which I believe is on 4/21, and that starts with the 2080 South State Street rezoning that is the companion to the annexation that was passed at council. It's a proposed annexation rezoning of a commercial lot from Pittsfield Township to the City of Ann Arbor Office Zoning District. There's no proposed development. The lot is 1.199 acres and is in Ward 4. That is followed by an ordinance to amend Section 5.19.1 parking requirements, Section 5.19.2 required parking, 5.19.3 special parking districts, 5.19.5 use of parking facilities, and 5.19.7 design of bicycle parking facilities of Chapter 55, the Unified Development Code, to modify sections to condense vehicle parking requirement tables, condense and update bicycle parking requirement tables to improve usability, design, and accessibility of these facilities. You'll recall this was sent back to you from council. And finally, an amendment to Chapter 55 of the Unified Development Code regarding exceptions to height limits for sustainable and affordable housing developments, a proposal to amend Section 5.18.4 exceptions to height limits to incorporate and change the features of a sustainable development and incorporate the features of an affordable housing development, and to amend Section 5.37 definitions to delete the terms affordable housing component and sustainability component.
Thank you, Manager Kelly. That takes us to agenda item number 9, unfinished business. There is none. And now we start our regular business. 10A. This is a site plan for 805 Oxford Road, SEU 25-0001, a proposal to construct a 3-story, approximately 23,500 square foot sorority with 47 beds and a surface parking lot with 16 spaces. The parcel is zoned R2B, 2-family dwelling, and student housing district. The petition includes a special use exception application, which is required for sororities in the R2B district. Staff recommendation is approval. We'll start with a petitioner presentation. Who is here on behalf of the petitioner? Good evening.
Good evening. How do we get that? That's the pointer.
Is it this one? Or, oh no, right there.
Does it touch?
Sorry.
Oh,
There's a mouse.
There's a mouse.
Is it this one?
I think it's that one.
Okay. Do you remember how to go full screen in PowerPoint? I always do everything in PDF.
I say I don't know. Yeah, I use PDF.
That looks like
Just arrow keys. Okay, good evening. I'm Joe Maynard with Washtenaw Engineering. Here with us tonight is our entire team, from architect to owner to landscape architect and construction management team. We're here tonight to present this project, which is a special exception use for to utilize this property as a University of Michigan residence for the Sigma Zeta chapter of Kappa Delta sorority. Wow, that's a mouthful. Which was founded in 2018. The Sigma Zeta chapter of Kappa Delta has been active on the Michigan University. I know. It's hard. I apologize. State grad, you know. With its current facility located on Tappan Street in Ann Arbor, the project seeks to acquire the proposed property and expand it to 25,000 square feet, chapter, dining room, commercial kitchen, meeting space, media studio lounges, house director, bedroom for 46 residents, double and triple occupancy, configuration, and associated storage, bedrooms, and club bathrooms. The project site is about 1.1 acres. Actually, it's 1.1 acres located at 805 Oxford Road. The site is surrounded by numerous other co-op and other nonprofit charter houses, including fraternities and sororities. We give you a full list of all the other ones within the neighborhood. The project will propose to replace an existing 8-inch water main that is in Oxford Road. It'll run from Hill Street down to the project site, and will include 380 feet of 12-inch water main upgrades and 2 new hydrants. The project will extend the city's storm sewer system from Hill Street to the project site. The project will also completely replace the Oxford Road from intersection of Hill Street to just beyond the southern property lines. We minimized parking on this to 16 parking spaces in order to only comply with the city's ordinance and also provide ADA compliance, EV parking spaces, a space for the house director, kitchen staff, cleaning staff, executive manager, provide on-space for move-in, move-out, so we don't have to utilize the street, and deliveries of food and pickup of trash. This is all in an effort to reduce any on-site parking. Additionally, the sorority uses off-site parking spaces for other members of the sorority, so they have places to park, and they will be utilizing the street parking. The site will also provide 12 Class A bike parking spaces located within the building's basement, which is available access through elevator, and 12 Class B spaces that are available outside under a covered pavilion. The site will provide 120% of the stormwater management requirements on site, so all the impervious surface within the site will be collected and stored in an underground detention tank that will release the water to the city storm sewer, which we are extending from Hill Street to the project site within a 38-hour period. The project has used retaining wall systems that the type of system we're using is more expensive, approximately about 40% more expensive than standard retaining wall systems. But it was done to allow a majority of the large landmark trees that are circling the property to be saved. Sarah, our landscape architect, will provide more details regarding the trees and the plantings on site.
Thanks, Joe. I'm Sarah. I'm the landscape architect on this project. As Joe mentioned...
Can you speak a little bit more into the mic? I'm sorry. You can bring it towards you unless it's mounted there.
Sorry,
okay, great.
Is that better?
It is.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. So as Joe mentioned, special effort was made to preserve several large, healthy specimen trees on the site, including a very large black walnut to the north, which is actually a City of Ann Arbor champion tree. A fairly large, beautiful tulip tree to the south that is actually on the neighbor's property, but the canopy and root zone of which extend onto our property. And then a row of conifers along the southern boundary that are also very substantial and in very good health. So to that end, we actually brought an arborist on site to evaluate and consult with us. They evaluated all the trees on site against our site plan and provided recommendations about tree protection for those trees. He will also be working with the contractor during construction and providing ongoing recommendations based on his observations in order to keep these trees in as good of health as possible. In addition to preserving these existing trees, we are also planting a total of 84 new trees for screening, buffers, and mitigation. We are strategically placing them to the extent possible in order to soften the retaining walls that Joe mentioned earlier. And we're using a heterogeneous mixture of Michigan native species to provide a resilient and healthy landscape. One of our goals with the landscape was to provide the mitigation to the extent possible, while also adhering to arboriculture best practices. In order to follow tree spacing recommendations, we are unable to actually accommodate all of the required mitigation on site. And so because of that, we are asking to pay a canopy loss fee totaling $23,000 as a means of alternative mitigation. In addition to the tree and shrub plantings, the site design also provides outdoor open space with benches and picnic tables for the residents' use.
Our architect will come up and give you an overview of the building.
Hello, my name is Chris Miller. I'm representing CORE. We're the architect and engineer of record on the project. So special care was taken to endeavor to implement as many sustainable elements to the project as possible, adhering to the 820 initiative. So we have a fully electric HVAC system for all of the resident areas and a majority of the first floor area as well. We did have to run natural gas in for the commercial kitchen elements and domestic water generation for the project, but those are the only non-electric utilities on the project. And we are also incorporating masonry materials that are going to incorporate low embodied carbon as much as possible on the project. Any other questions?
We won't ask you questions now.
Okay.
You get a full 10 minutes, then the public, then us.
Okay, great.
Is that your presentation? Oh, and then we even have a staff presentation too, but are you all done?
I think
We're done.
Okay, great, thank you. We'll call you back up when we are ready. We'll turn now to our staff presentation by Planner Malene Cochran.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So the applicants did a good job of giving an overview of the project. I'm just going to mention a few more things. One, there will be a new curb cut installed along Oxford Road for access to the site. They currently do have a curb cut on the parcel to the south and an easement for access, so they're going to close that and then open a new one that would provide more direct access. There are also existing sidewalks on both sides of Oxford Road, and then there will be internal sidewalks for pedestrians to access the site, and things like the bicycle parking, 12 Class A and 12 Class B. We talked about the landscaping, and there are significant grade changes on site. And the applicant did mention the alternative natural features mitigation, and that's included in the motion because it must be specifically approved by Planning Commission, but code does allow for up to 50% of required mitigation to be not planted on site and provided through alternatives like mitigation fees. The developer has committed to a voluntary parks contribution of $7,500. They mentioned that there will be an upgrade to the stormwater management system. And I think that is all that I'm going to mention about the site plan. But I will talk for a little bit about the special exception use. So the sorority does require special exception use in the R2B zoning district, and the application is attached as part of the packet. And there are general approval for criteria that are provided in section 5.29.5.d of the Unified Development Code that the Planning Commission will look at when arriving at its decision. I'll mention a few of them. The comprehensive plan and the recently adopted Comprehensive Plan 2050 recommends the residential future land use category for this parcel, though I'll mention it is very near the transition future land use category, which is along Washtenaw Avenue. And overall, the plan does support varied housing types and greater density across residential zones. In terms of compatibility with the general vicinity, the R2B district is the appropriate zoning for sororities, fraternities, and group housing with the special exception use. And they did mention there are existing sororities and fraternities and group housing in the nearby vicinity. This sorority will be built according to the use-specific standards that are section 5.16.1 and will have required screening where the property line abuts single and two-family residential dwellings and will be operated with a resident manager on site. The consistency with the neighborhood, the R2B district is characterized by large and architecturally distinctive houses, relatively large lots with large front yards, and mature tree growth. The architectural design of the building is consistent with the distinct architectural character of the neighborhood. There are single and two-family houses nearby, and there will be fencing and screening along those property lines. There are also multiple sororities and fraternities in the area, so the proposed use and density are not atypical for the district and the district in this location. For the natural environment, mature trees are characteristic of the district, and the landscape architect did speak about the removal of the trees, and they will be properly mitigated for per city code, and there will be additional trees planted for the required buffering. For off-street parking, the project proposes approximately 9,600 square feet of vehicular use area. This is a considerable amount of paving for the district, especially near the street, but that's to service solid waste trucks and other things that the applicant mentioned. There is a parking lot at the rear of the lot that has the required electric vehicle parking with 16 surface spaces, which is more than typical for the district. It amounts to roughly one space per 3 residents. And someone must have mentioned there's 47 beds proposed. The residents will be students, and the location is near campus, so there are easy access to other modes of transportation. I mentioned sidewalks, and there are also multiple AAA bus stops within a quarter mile of the site. Again, I'll just say it does meet this use-specific standards for lot area per occupant, floor area, continuous screening, and a resident manager. And that's all I'll add for now.
Thank you. We will now have a public hearing on this site plan and proposed item that's before us. I don't know which word I'm reaching for, but I can't find it, so I'll stop. So this is an opportunity for individuals to speak up to 3 minutes on this item. We'll first hear from those of you who are present in chambers, then we'll turn to our remote participants. To speak remotely, press star 9 if on phone, or use the raise hand feature if on Zoom. For phone access, dial 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 977-6634-1226. City staff will identify callers by the last 3 digits of their phone number or by name if on Zoom. You'll hear an announcement when it's your turn to speak. Please move to a quiet area and mute any background sounds. For all participants, please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. Is there anyone present who'd like to address us on this item? Come right on up. You can either make a line or you can wait until the person who's there leaves the podium. And welcome.
Respected Commission members, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Aradhana Krishna. I live on 1835 Cambridge Road, right behind 805 Oxford. I moved there in 2000 when my kids were 6 and 9. My kids ran around the neighborhood playing with other neighborhood children, crossing Cambridge alone and going sledding in what is now Prairie Park. My kids are now 31 and 34, and like all of us here, my house means a lot to me. Outside my home, I'm a cognitive psychologist, and I'm a professor at the Ross School of Business, where I teach pricing to MBAs. I find that the special exception use application is full of contradictions and falsities. Let me ask you a question. If you were buying a house, would you prefer to have a hillside full of hostas behind you, or a sorority that can sleep 70 people and have a dining room that can seat 238 people? I think the answer is obvious. One would prefer the hillside full of hostas. The number of buyers for a property would significantly reduce, and when the number of buyers reduces, the competition for the property decreases, and then the price decreases. To say that house prices won't be affected is simply absurd. It is equally absurd to say that it will not increase noise or lower safety. The place has a seating capacity of 238 and a standing capacity approaching 1,000, which means it will generate a huge amount of traffic and noise and will do so often. Will the dining room be open to all sorority members, perhaps on weekends? Will we expect 200 people coming to eat then? Some of them may walk or bike, but some of them will drive down. Where will they park? On Oxford, on Cambridge, on South University? They will clearly create parking problems for residents. There will also be rush week, which will bring even more noise. The form says that while they are removing 50% of the trees, a significant effort has been taken to conserve as many trees as possible. Really? Are 22 parking spots necessary? Is a seating capacity of 238 necessary? After all, 42 trees are being cut down, of which 17 are landmark trees. How is this a significant effort to preserve trees? All those trees can be saved if the current footprint of the house and parking is maintained. This can result in a medium-sized sorority instead of a giant sorority. Basically, I'm very concerned about house prices, the noise, the parking situation, and the trees. I believe that the application before us today is deficient in terms of questions 4, 5, and 6, and therefore should be rejected. I feel that at the very maximum, there should be permission given for the same footprint as the existing house, with 30 maximum residents, 50 maximum person dining room, and no landmark trees being cut. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. Let me just also note, you're fine. Your comments are fine. I'm just going to talk about the podium. There are 3 buttons, or 3 lights that are there. Green means you're good to go. Yellow means wrap it up. You have 30 seconds. And when it hits red, please stop talking. You did perfectly, and I didn't want to have to stop you. So thank you for that. Who else would like to address us at this time? You all are being so nice to each other.
My name is David Patterson, and my wife and I are property owners at 1942 Cambridge Road. I'm here in opposition of this special exception use application. This isn't about a new Greek house. It's luxury student housing, purpose-built for privilege and exclusivity. And if you've been around downtown Ann Arbor, I think we have a pretty substantial amount of that already. This application actually disregards the comprehensive plan, as it's already been called out, specifically recommending for the plot to ultimately be zoned from R2B to residential. It ignores the established character of the Oxbridge neighborhood and the stated values and policy priorities of Ann Arbor. First, the demolition of this historic home is an act of historical vandalism. This Dutch colonial revival residence is actually the only remaining pre-1900 home in Oxbridge. It was once owned by University of Michigan physiology professor Dr. Warren Lombard, and the current 6,000 square foot structure is actually more than adequate for a Greek house under R2B zoning. Did I also mention this landmark house was built in 1897, which is significant in that it is the same year that the Kappa Delta sorority was founded historically. Yet the developers have chosen to go with a full east wing ballroom design and replace history with a project that is profoundly incompatible with the character of the neighborhood. The new construction is grossly, offensively out of scale. This 3-story dormitory will be a massive 24,000 square feet, 4 times larger than the historic structure that it replaces. This scale is absolutely absurd. Architectural drawings show a dining hall size for a commercial banquet venue. It's already been noted. This isn't a residential building. It's a commercial-grade event space masquerading as student housing in an area that has already, unfortunately, become a hot spot for fraternity parties known for underage binge drinking, and some have ended in tragedy. I think the environmental impact is a shocking act of destruction. This has already been addressed, but clearing over half the trees on the property is eliminating a vital old-growth canopy that currently provides critical noise buffer from the Washtenaw traffic. Compounding this environmental damage, this massive 10,000 square foot surface parking lot will take up a fourth of the property. This number of spaces is excessive and increases stormwater runoff and undermines our A20 and carbon neutral transit goals. No sustainability features that I have heard have been proposed, but at least there will be plenty of parking for gas-guzzling SUVs, 16 to 22, I'm not sure what it is. I think the fundamental issue is this. This project delivers all the pain of increased density, magnified traffic, illegal parking, and excessive noise with none of the benefit to housing affordability or access. As a parent who walks my kindergarten to school every day, I have to cross the Oxford Hill intersection every morning, and I can assure you we don't need more distracted or speeding drivers plowing through the crosswalk as our children try to make their way to Angel School. I urge our neighbors here on the Planning Commission to uphold the district's scale and character and deny this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to address us at this time?
Okay. All right. Good evening. My name is Scotty Parrish. My husband and I have lived at 1945 Cambridge Road for 26 years and raised our 3 children there. I'm also a professor at the University of Michigan. I'm very pro-student, pro-undergraduate, lest there be any confusion about that. Between our house on Cambridge and the property in question behind it is a stand of beautiful trees, many of which are landmark. It is these woods that have always made our backyard feel like a little oasis, despite the fact that we also share a property line with a sorority, Alpha Phi, and a fraternity, Phi Gamma Delta. I have decided to speak tonight because I want to protest the destruction of that segment of the woods standing on the property at 805 Oxford. I also want to protest any further encroachment of Greek housing into our neighborhood. First, the trees, relevant to question 5 about environmental effects. And I'm repeating what has been said, but the application admits that the proposed development will require the removal of approximately 50% of the trees, including woodland and landmark trees, and yet at the same time promises to be built with substantial landscape buffers between it and its single-family neighbors. Those existing trees are what buffers the property from our house, and planting new ones, they will not buffer for years and years, but we will be dead by the time they are buffering at the level of many 3 feet wide diameter trees that exist there now. Second, the application states, in answer to question 7, that, quote, most daily travel by residents will be as pedestrians or via bicycle. We share a driveway with the sorority next to us. Never once in 26 years have I seen one of these young women on a bicycle. While it is true that some do walk, a great number call Ubers to get to campus, constantly congesting Hill Street with waiting cars. Large delivery trucks also idle on Hill Street as they unload. Now, let me address more generally what Greek life brings to the Oxbridge neighborhood. There are the inevitable broken alcohol bottles scattered where children making their way to Angel Elementary walk and bike. Last spring, I saw a group of 3 Upper L boys who were walking home together pick up a can of half-spent beer lying on the sidewalk and give it a try. This is a small and relatively benign anecdote, but the excessive drinking occurring in Greek houses can result in tragedy. This was brought home to all of us in late January when a U of M sophomore, having become intoxicated, left the Delta Chi fraternity in freezing weather, wandered in the direction of our houses, and froze to death in a yard on our block. It was only a few weeks later that, unfazed by this student's death, hundreds of undergraduates were drawn to another fraternity across the street from Delta Chi. During this event, we not only found numerous young people urinating next to our driveway and in our backyard, but later found a racist slur and caricature spray painted on one of the trees. This is what Greek life feels like to people who live next to it.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Matt Wolf. I'm one of the neighbors living at 1841 Cambridge Road. We came to Ann Arbor 3 years ago. We chose this place because it was very aged and green and beautiful. If we would have known that it would have been neighboring this big house, I'm not sure we would have purchased this property. We actually have lived here 20 years ago. We married in Ann Arbor, and it feels like the city is losing a little bit its DNA. Right now, a lot of old properties get removed, replaced, condos getting built. And the DNA, really, the spirit of the city is slowly evaporating. If this city doesn't take care of its spirit, at one point, there is really no point living in Ann Arbor. And at this point, the city seems to really promote the life of students a lot more over the lives of families. I lead a division at the hospital. For my young physicians, it's almost impossible to find a living space within the city of Ann Arbor. Most of them live outside of Ann Arbor. And I wonder if that is what the city really is striving for. So, in the spirit of having a city that actually is a city and not just a Disneyland for students, I would appeal to you that we really want to have a living and vivid neighborhood and not just a big, over-dimensional house for students that is 3 times bigger than what's right there and seems really out of space. The other point is the structure that's right there is really beautiful, and you wonder, why would you demolish this? I'm a little bit surprised that it's actually not historically protected, and that is really a loss to the city. Losing about 40 trees seems kind of crazy to a city that takes its pride in trees, so the whole thing really seems a little bit out of pace here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Hello. Thank you for having me. I live at 809 Oxford, directly adjacent to the property. My name is Hisham Shaban. 3 years ago, my wife and I purchased our property. As a young professional couple, my wife, professor, or a lecturer at the University of Michigan, and myself, physician. It took us a considerable amount of time before finding the right house and to be able to purchase. We did, knowing the area and the makeup of how close it is to the university, we did a lot of research. We knew that we'd be moving into an area that is very densely packed with students and Greek housing, and we understood that. However, we spent a lot of time looking at our directly adjacent properties to see what would be the neighbors for our eventual family as our family starts to grow. We visited a house for our children that we are currently trying to obtain. Our concern is with the size of it. I remember the day that my neighbor called me to tell me that she had sold the home approximately about a year ago when they went under contract, and easing my wife's concerns, saying that don't worry, in the size of this house, it won't be more than probably 20 women. And the initial number of 60 was quite jarring for us, and down to 47 we still find difficult to manage, considering the noise and number of people coming and going. That's our biggest concern, other than losing a potential other single-family neighbor in the future. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jack Jagadish. I live at 1835 Cambridge Road. My wife and I purchased this home 26 years ago. We're directly behind the subject property, which was a single-family home when we bought it and has been since. I just want to share a couple of facts with you, which you're probably aware of, but I just want to highlight. The site is shaped like a pentagon. On 2 sides, it abuts other student housing. On 3 sides, it abuts single-family homes. And in other words, this site is not in the middle of Greek housing. it is at the edge of it in a transition zone. And you can see this also on a zoning map or an aerial view. If you convert this site from a single-family home to a Greek housing, it is an expansion of the footprint of Greek housing in the city. Furthermore, if you address question 2 in terms of fitting in with the surroundings, the best placement for a house, a sorority or fraternity on this property would be towards the north of the property, which is where the Greek housing is. The current plan that we're seeing actually pushes the house all the way to the southern corner of the property, where it is really very close to the adjacent single-family homes. And in fact, to my own house, the proposed building is going to be 60 feet closer than where the current house is on the property. The SEU also talks about tucking into the hillside, and the 805 Oxford has a hill in the middle. The current house is right on top of the hill. If you tuck into the hillside, you want the tucking to happen on the far side of the hillside. There's no tucking into the hillside if it is on the south side of the hill, as happens to be the case. I have a few factual things also that I found problematic in the SEU. In response to question 1, it says there are only 2 single-family homes abutting 805 Oxford. This is patently not true. The architectural drawings show a dining hall with a large capacity. It's about 2,800 square feet by my measure, and it clearly is not meant to cater to 47 residents. If there are going to be events there or parties or a cafeteria, that is non-residential use that we should know about in terms of what we're doing. There's the planning staff recommendation says 75 people, whereas the request from the petitioner is 47.
I'm sorry, your time is up, sir.
I was getting there, Manager Kelly. Sorry, I got there slowly.
My name is Bridget Bly. I'm a resident of Ann Arbor, and my husband's passing out these pictures because I think you should see what it looks like, what their house looks like, and you can see the lot line. You can see the marking of where that house is going to go, and that's their house. That's what they're going to be looking from. And right now, they look at trees, and on the second page, you can see where their house is relative to that one. I think it's worth mentioning because the Planning Commission asked in question 4, how will the proposed use impact the peaceful enjoyment, economic value, whatever, of the neighborhood? And the sorority's response to this question was, adding this facility will not change the character of the neighborhood or general facility, nor adversely impact property values. So that is just so clearly untrue for people who abut this property. Because the number 1 rule in Ann Arbor is don't buy a home that backs onto a fraternity or a sorority. So how is that fair? The other piece I want to mention about this is that no one has mentioned, except you, the expansion of the university into lots that were traditionally lived in by Ann Arbor community members. Right. Michigan has a record this year, 53,488 students. 25 years ago, they had 16,000 fewer students, right? So while it's in their interest to accept more students, and I know they've been building dorms like crazy, Ann Arbor is losing lots that had in the past housed downtown employees, teachers, workers, families, and now they house students. So why should the Ann Arbor community get edged out of its own town? Why can't the sorority members commute in from Pittsfield Township and keep the houses for people, contribute to the long-term health and benefit of our community? I'd also like to refer to the land use goals of the city's current master plan, page 34. Goal A, this is the first goal is to ensure that development projects are designed and constructed in a way that preserves or enhances the integrity of natural systems. Objective 1, this is the first objective. Encourage developers to use innovative design techniques to help protect or enhance our natural systems. Action statement 1, this is the first one. Encourage the reduction of impervious surfaces proposed with new development, structured or below-level parking, reducing the amount of storm water runoff, surface flooding, and erosion. As others have mentioned, the project removes 47 trees, landmark trees, and in return, returns to us 16 asphalt paved parking spots and a huge driveway. This project has no solar, no geothermal. If we think about this trade-off in terms of carbon offset, it's a crime. What happened to those land use goals? In summary, the project 1 turns over permanent Ann Arbor community member house to university students. 2 goes against the most important land use goals of the city's master plan.
All right, I'm going to cut you off here.
That's our peace and property.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think there's 2 more of you. You're like looking at each other.
Hi, good evening. My name is Bruce Judge. I live at 1945 Cambridge Road. I appreciate the chance to address this body, and I took your advice and spent some time looking at the city comprehensive plan. I'd like to address a few sections of that. The first is the section, the Parks, Recreation, and Open Spaces portion of the plan, which speaks to natural amenities and says that natural amenities are a necessary aspect of a balanced community and are considered a legitimate land use, same as housing. And it's hard to square that with this proposal that's going to eliminate 42 trees and wipe out that existing natural amenity. It also speaks of fostering environmental stewardship to meet the City of Ann Arbor's A20 sustainability goals. And yet this is a plan that's going to add a 10,000 square foot paved parking lot and increase traffic, cars, and density. I'd also like to talk about what's present in the land use element of the city's master plan. And it starts with this, it includes in the vision statement this wording: historically significant buildings and neighborhoods will be preserved, full stop. That's what it says. And in this case, you will be wiping out, basically eliminating this beautiful 19th century colonial house, which, as you've heard, has historic value. When you talk about the central area where this is based, that portion of the master plan recognizes that neighborhood preservation is vulnerable to institutional expansion. That's exactly what it says. And then it says, as a goal, we will protect, preserve, and enhance the character of housing in established residential areas and minimize displacement of residential uses by institutional uses. That's the wording in the master plan. It also speaks of the goal of encouraging property maintenance and identifying areas with trash problems and target enforcement. Now, other people have spoken to the issues, the challenges of living between residences and these Greek life fraternities and sororities. And that's recognized as well in the plan that talks about the difficulty in developing cohesiveness among neighbors in these areas close to student housing and specifically close to fraternities and sororities. You've heard, and we've made mention of the tragedy that took place just a few weeks ago when a young 19-year-old underage University of Michigan student appeared at an event at this fraternity that was attended by fraternity and sorority members and became so inebriated that he went outside, died of hypothermia and alcohol poisoning. That's what it's like to live close to the fraternities and sororities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dorothy. I live with Matthias at 1841 Cambridge Road. I myself have not had as much time to look over the plans, but I did want to bring up some points. So one thing that comes to mind is I hear the message that this parcel is zoned for this, or it used to be a fraternity, so it can become a sorority. We already have other fraternities and sororities nearby, and I understand that. It's the scale that concerns me. It seems to me that rather than take what it used to be, maybe adding another level, we are maximizing the capacity to the full extent possible. And I wonder if that sets a precedent. And we should think about that for other homeowners, the impact, as it was brought up, to the valuation of our houses, the neighborhood feel. So just because something could doesn't mean it should. And whether or not you approve this plan, I highly urge you to at least put in certain precautions. And one thing that does concern me is not just the aesthetics with the removal of the trees, but soil stability is impacted when you remove that high number of mature trees. 50 saplings is not going to replace what 50 mature trees brought as far as soil stability. And I'd like to know that there's going to be precautions for any runoff or underlying infrastructure impacts to the surrounding houses. So I appreciate that the design team has done what they could to mitigate it, but coming from a homeowner's perspective, I'd like to know that there are guardrails in place during construction if this gets approved, and at the very least, if this does get approved, to consider modifying the design so that the impact is not so large. I'm a University of Michigan alumni. I was a student, I guess, a long time ago. I don't like to think of it that long. I get it. You know, students need places to live. And I'd like for us all to be good neighbors. I don't begrudge these students a place to live. That's not where I'm coming from. I just think we can do a better job of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else in chambers who would like to address us at this time?
Thanks, Chair Weiss. Ken Garber again, 28 Hammond Hill Court. Just so you know, several miles away from this project. As usual, I want to address the sustainability elements. Mr. Miller from CORE mentioned the partial building electrification. 6 months ago, CORE wrote that 2 systems were being evaluated for that: ground source heat pumps and air source heat pumps, VRF, variable refrigerant flow. So I would have a question for Mr. Miller. What HVAC solution do they finally settle on and they're going to use? I'm always curious about that. He did mention also that they have to run natural gas for the kitchen and for the first floor water heating. I want to make it clear they do not have to do this. If you look at the Wolverine Village dormitory, the new U of M dorm, 900-seat dining hall, full service commercial kitchen, all electric. There's not a gas line in sight. It can't be done. Mr. Miller also invoked A20 in describing his plan. That is highly misleading. This project checks almost none of the boxes in the A20 plan. It would, as some others have pointed out, it would have to have rooftop solar, on-site battery storage. It would have to be net zero energy, incorporate passive house design standards. Does none of these things. Now, I'm not necessarily knocking the project as a whole, but I'm tired of petitioners saying that it's somehow A20 compliant when it almost completely isn't. So I would urge future petitioners to actually read the plan, and given the fact that we no longer have a sustainability review by OSI, and for the commission, as it always has, to critically look at the actual elements of a plan and go beyond the rhetoric of the petitioner. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garber. Manager Kelly, do we have online participants with their hands raised?
Luis Vasquez, you have 3 minutes to address the Planning Commission.
Hey, greetings, Luis Vasquez, 909 Barton Drive in Ann Arbor, Michigan, on the north side. I have 3 points to address. First is, does this project really address any of the housing needs of Ann Arbor? I mean, if you look at what my opinions have been in the past, well, this project would be a 10-story building. I mean, gosh, if you're going to knock down a 1894 historic property and, you know, put in a bunch of parking, no, I would rather have the 10-story building. Second point I would like to make is about neighborhood values. I think having all those parking spaces and knocking down trees is not a good thing. No. Please, adjust your parking needs. Third point I would like to make is, you see that sign in front of you? All of you sitting there in the audience tonight? A2SEU. Okay, Sustainable Energy Utility. I'm going to challenge this sorority to encourage all Ann Arbor University of Michigan sororities and fraternities to join this SEU, Sustainable Energy Utility. Look it up. Thank you for your time. Good night.
There are no other callers with their hands raised.
Thank you, Manager Kelly. I will close, what is this, the public hearing. I have a lot. It's whether it's a public comment, a dedicated public comment, or a public hearing, and I get them wrong, and you all correct me later. And I will read the motion, and then that will enable us to start our discussion, and we'll interact with some of the stuff that we heard, as well as with the petitioner and with staff. Okay? So the Ann Arbor City Planning Commission, after hearing all interested persons and reviewing all relevant information, including the accompanied site plan, finds the petition substantially meets the standards in Chapter 55 Unified Development Code, Section 5.2.9.5.d, Special Exceptions, and Section 5.16.1.e, Fraternity and Sorority House and Student Cooperative Housing, and therefore approves the Kappa Delta Sorority House at 805 Oxford Road for 75 occupants. This approval is based on the following findings. The proposed use will be consistent with the R2B, two-family dwelling and student housing district, which provides for residential use, including special exceptions for fraternity and sorority houses and student cooperative housing. 2, the proposed use will not adversely impact traffic, pedestrian, bicyclist, circulation, or road intersections based on its location. Based on the location. Oxford Road provides access to the site, and the proposed use is consistent with the existing and surrounding uses' traffic impact. 3, the subject site meets the use-specific standards for on-site residential manager, minimum lot area, and minimum lot area per occupant, principal building floor area, and screening. 4, the maximum number of occupants shall be established as 75. 5, a site plan documenting the existing and proposed conditions of the site has been submitted as a part of this application, and that the Ann Arbor Planning Commission approves the Kappa Delta Sorority 805 Oxford Road Site Plan Version 5 dated March 11, 2026. Alternate natural features mitigation for 92 inches of tree mitigation and the development agreement. Moved by Commissioner Weatherby, seconded by Commissioner Mills. So now we're going to go into our discussion of this site, and we'll entertain some of the things that we heard from you. We'll entertain some questions we have for the petitioner, and we'll interact with staff. So with that, who at the table who would like to kick us off? Commissioner Mills.
All right, thank you. I want to start out with a question, I think it's for staff or for the developer, which is about the development agreement. I didn't see anything addressing electric HVAC in there. Did I miss it?
It's not in the development agreement.
Okay. So from my perspective, I appreciate the question that we heard from Mr. Garber about what it is, but because it's not in the development agreement, there's nothing that would require that it be all electric HVAC.
No.
So I think that's immaterial to our discussion, like unless that is something that makes it into the development agreement. I'm assuming that this is not going to be a building with electric HVAC because there's nothing holding them to that. The other question that I have is about occupancy and how we arrived at 75. And I'll just say that I did the math, and technically, according to the lot area, it could be like 130 something.
Yes. So for everyone, there is a minimum lot area per occupant, and that's 350 square feet. And for this lot, it's about 139, something like that would be the absolute maximum for zoning standards. That doesn't get into building stuff. They are proposing 47 beds, and the code requires that the special exception use and the motion establish an occupancy number. So they could go up higher, not with this building. So the number 75, it's about 150% of what the number of beds that they have, and it's just to give some flexibility because increase in occupancy would mean coming back for another special exception use. So if they, in the future, if this is approved and they're able to squeeze another bed and make a double into a triple, they wouldn't have to come back for a special exception use. Obviously not the case if they need to add floor area that requires a site plan, and then they'll go through that. But it's just a flexibility, and that number can be anything as long as it's under 138-ish.
Okay, great. And just from my perspective, I have gray hair, and I have also been on the Planning Commission for a while. Some might say too long, and have seen.
Who says that?
I don't know. Maybe my husband, my family. Have seen sororities or fraternities, I can't remember which one, come back before us for internal modifications. No changes, like effectively taking a dining room and making it smaller, making it into living space, and have to go through this process effectively for no external modification. So the idea of having a buffer is very sensible to me overall, just because, especially in the case where where may be able to be remodeled without that, I think that that makes a whole lot of sense. One more question, and then I have a couple comments. So the final question is about whether, like, what do we do if there's not regulations, I think, in any of our things associated with the size of a dining room? And how, like, I don't know how to think about a building that may operate as something that is more like an event space. Do we have any? Is that regulated at all in anything, or is there something similar?
I'll say something, and then maybe Deputy Manager Kelly will have something else to add. But for the special exception use purposes, there's nothing about dining. It's about occupancy. It's about the other 11 things that they're asked to respond to and you're asked to consider. It may be a question also for the applicants about what the intended use is, what they see it as. But in terms of the things that you're evaluating it against, there's nothing that responds to dining rooms.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so here's my 2 cents, but I always learn from the conversation with others. So this is a zoning district that allows for sororities, fraternities, intentionally. And it was already noted, just because it's not there today doesn't mean it's not going to be there, right? This is not actually a rezoning from a place that doesn't allow that to a place that does. It's been allowed forever. not forever, but figuratively for a while. Like, I, though, think that there's a lot of parking. Like, 0 parking spots are required. 0. And so I think that there's an awful lot of space that is dedicated to something that I'm actually not totally anti-parking, because recognizing when there are people here, like, they may need to go somewhere, but surface area, like parking that is not underground, for example, right, that is removing more natural features, I think it's that part of the SEU that concerns me, or the special exception use standards. I also want to note that this is residential, and it is in our new comp plan, we talk about residential, but our new comp plan also talks about addressing scale. And so I appreciate that in the staff report, there was consideration given to what we're thinking about in terms of height. But the other thing that is in the comp plan is thinking about maximum building sizes. And actually what's really, really hard here is that for a sorority, there is a minimum building area, not a maximum building area. Like, that is our existing code, that says it needs to be at least 5,000 square feet, minimum. And so that is a tension. And here, I don't know that how we address that. Sorry, you don't understand my comment, or?
Not yet.
Okay.
Can you finish? Sorry, and then we'll.
All right, and then you can go back. I was just going to say.
No, it's okay. I just want you to be able to finish.
Yeah. So I will tell you, I am grappling with the fact that we all voted to put things in, but it was important to me that we talked about, like, as we're thinking about what our residential areas look like. I live in a place with lots of multifamily, and some of it scale matters. Like, it doesn't make a difference to me if it's single family or multifamily. I think the scale does matter, and how to think about that. I don't know. I saw that there are other similar uses around, but I didn't see kind of what is the scale of them. And maybe I missed that in the presentation, unless somebody has kind of how this compares to the existing scale of the surrounding uses. I don't know that I think that, but particularly coupled with the surface parking, is what I'm really gives me pause on this. It's not the number of people. It's not necessarily traffic. Like, this is a place where people can walk or they can Uber, and it's a shorter Ubering than coming in from the townships, right? And, like, they're going to the same place regularly, right? But it's the parking that honestly will just be storage for cars an awful lot, not actually moving of those cars, and that feels not right.
So 2 things I heard from you were, in your comments, were about the parking and the scale of the actual development.
And let's not talk about all electric unless it's in writing.
Exactly. Who else would like to go? Councilmember Dish.
Yeah, I didn't want to speak yet, but I just wanted to, I understand.
Wait, what's happening?
No, I just mean, I'm not going to say what I'm thinking yet, but I wanted to ask Commissioner Mills if she could explain a little bit more when you point out that what our code does is it says there's a minimum lot area that's required for a building like this, or minimum lot size, sorry, not area, right?
It's actually the building itself has to be a minimum of 5,000 square feet.
Okay, right, okay, so that's
not just, and that's different than the lot.
Yeah, so this is 24-ish thousand square feet, so about 4 to 5 times.
Okay, right, so that's what our code says is a minimum size building of 5,000 square feet.
For a sorority or a fraternity. Mm-hmm.
For a sorority or fraternity, that's interesting. But then doesn't limit what the outer bound of that is, although there are other requirements that limit the outer bound of something on a parcel.
Right.
I'm just trying to make,
Yes.
I was trying to understand what, and then your point you were trying to get at, what was that? There's something that you feel like we can't speak to, or?
Our code doesn't currently have any sort of, except in the R1E district, which is not here, In the R1E, we effectively say you can't build a house that's more than 2,000 square feet. Like, that's what it says. We don't do that in any other districts, including this one. So there's nothing that says we regulate how big that building can be, is my understanding, by setbacks or by height, but not by square footage. And that is something that I think ought to be on the table in our conversation about when we look at the residential zones associated with the comp plan, like, might building maximum sizes be appropriate? But that's not on the table right now.
And this is still not your comment period yet. All right.
Yeah, no, I have to think. But so I'm just trying to say that you have raised a concern about scale. And scale is one thing that we would get at when we looked at the maximum size of a building relative to the sizes and massing in relation to buildings in the context. And you are suggesting that the comp plan asks us to consider that, and the code doesn't give us much foothold, sorry, not footage, foothold, for doing that. But you are pointing to an issue around the scale of this building. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Dish. Who else would like to speak at this time? Commissioner Weatherby.
So I just have a couple comments.
Can you face your mic?
I will, once I have my comments here. So one of the things about the usage of this is I looked up, and this actually lot has been a fraternity or sorority since at least 1951 until relatively recently. Looks like it was Tau Upsilon in 1997, Tau Kappa Epsilon in 1972, Phi Sigma Kappa, Kappa Nu in 1951. So it is actually, historically, it has been a fraternity or sorority more often than it's been a single-family house. So that just, it was interesting to me to note that. And it has been, while I do think it was a historic building, and there are parts of it, it looks like it has beautiful fireplaces, a history of sorority and fraternity use over the years. I don't think, as far as a historic building, it has been very remodeled on the inside, at least. But and also they could cut down their trees regardless. Like, this lot could be cleared of trees. I appreciate that we have regulations in place that mean that if you are proposing a building like this, that you can't just cut down the trees and that you have to mitigate them. You have to pay in. There's a lot of, we have made it so that helps the city as much as possible. But that is a double-edged sword for the people who live next door, because, I mean, there will be some tree loss. I know in my neighborhood we had a large development go in, and there's actually a lot more trees now than there used to be because they did have to mitigate, but those trees are smaller. And so, it definitely, I know that isn't, the fact that the city gets more trees is good, but I know that's hard for the direct neighbors, because it doesn't always translate to that big tree I used to look at is now not there. But I did have a question. The precautions for runoff impacts on neighbors, and I don't know who best to...
Do you want to start with the petitioner?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we have someone from the petitioner come to the podium and answer Commissioner Weatherby's question around storm runoff? Did you have a more specific question?
Yeah.
Sort of, with trees being cut down, with buildings going up, I mean, there's always a messy phase of a project. What sort of, what can you say to us and to the people who would live around here as far as, impacts to their properties, and with things like tree demolition and building demolition, and how that might affect them? Because it does sound like there are slopes and
angles and things here.
Yeah, the property has a lot of slope to it. It goes in all directions, so any of the neighbors around the property currently get runoff from this property. As part of the project, we will install our required soil erosion silt fencing, tree protection fencing around the outside edge of the property that will minimize, during the first phase of construction, runoff exiting the property. As the project is built, the site will get lowered and the retaining walls would be installed. At that point, the outside edge of the property, everything will be contained within the property limits. So only the edge where we're protecting all the trees will continue to run off the property as it has in the past, but no additional impervious surface will enter any of our neighbors' property. It will all be contained through stormwater collection system, including all the gutters and downspouts. We have actually also installed some additional provisions because we get some pretty heavy rains that have additional catch basins in the rear of the building that will also help collect any overflow from the property. I don't know if I can pull it up here. We don't have it. You'll see that the house itself has a pitched roof around the outside, but in the center, that actually is depressed down. So only the first half of the front of that peak runs out to the gutters. Everything else runs into the center of the building, which has a central storm system that runs through the building down directly into the underground stormwater system. We designed the stormwater system to have pretreatment and contain 120% of our stormwater requirements for the entire site within that storm system. We construct a new stormwater pipe from our property up to Hill Street. Went with quite a bit of design with the city's engineers to get that accomplished so that our water will not run out into Oxford. It'll be controlled through a storm pipe into the city's stormwater management system.
Okay, and that includes the proposed parking and...
All the parking, yep, everything within the site, yep.
Okay.
With the table's permission, I just want to stay here on this runoff just for a second, if that's okay. Could you speak to the neighbors who have expressed concern about the project, how they would be able to contact either someone with the development team or with the city if they have runoff issues?
We will have contact with the development team. I don't know how best to provide a contact information for our...
I mean, it would be very easy for you just to go to all the neighbors and give them the proper contact person that they could call so that there would be a central person.
Okay, yeah, if they want to see us, we can provide that.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you. Who else would like to speak at this time? All right, it's Lee or Norton. Okay, Commissioner Lee.
Yeah, I think from my standpoint, the standard of evaluation here for the special exception use is pretty specific. Is it consistent with the general objectives of the city comprehensive plan? I'd written down originally yes. I mean, I have heard some actually good points from the neighbors. Again, I think about kind of the transience of, they are there for, I don't know, 2-3 years. I'm not really sure how long they normally stay there for. And what is the general objectives of the city comprehensive plan? I've been rereading the residential. I do think this falls into a resi. Can I just get a confirmation of the 3 zones? Or right now it's R2, but the future land use plan kind of specifies that it would be residential. So the single-family duplexes, triplexes permitted by right, cottage courts, stack flats, townhouses, and neighborhood commercial corner, small multifamily buildings up to 3 stories, which that fits. And then standards encouraging development of smaller, more flexible homes, may address maximum building size, et cetera. It doesn't really talk about large kind of Greek life. And that's where I'm a little bit caught right now. And then really the special exception use is the only thing that we really have discretion over. There's everything else is kind of comports, but the SEU is where we can kind of exercise, does it fit these specific criteria? So again, my leaning towards is yes, but then I kind of have been really, really closely reading about the residential zone, whether this specific fits. Is it designed, constructed, operated, and maintained in a manner that's compatible with existing and planned character of the general vicinity? Again, my initial instinct was, I mean, there are Greek life houses here. In the programming, I suppose, defense, there's a house manager that's designated. Sororities generally have, again, somebody who's there specifically on site. That said, the points as to what it abuts, kind of like whether it's majority residential versus not, is also, is it designed, constructed, operated, maintained in a manner? Basically, all of this is me thinking out loud right now because I'm actually a little bit in between on this one. I approached this initially from the standpoint when we take a residential use and push it to 47 to 75 beds, that's a decent, I think, upgrade in the overall utility or utilization of the site. I'll keep going. However, I'm wondering, I do have a specific question as to the general character. I was noting that there is a 6-foot fence that is proposed, and I was looking for the specific details of that, but was unable to find it on the site plan. Could I get the petitioner to give me an understanding of what the buffer looks like? Or at least like a description of what that might look like?
Hi, yeah, I can provide, I can actually show you, I do have the detail right here. We are proposing just a standard 6-foot wood picket fence, and a solid fence. However, we do have a provision that the fencing shall be coordinated with all of the adjacent property owners. So if they have specific preferences about what that would look like, that would obviously be taken into consideration. And in addition to the privacy fence, we are also proposing evergreen screening with hedges. So it's a combination of the two, but I can show you the detail if you'd like to see.
Great, thank you. I couldn't find this 5.4. I don't know that this was on. Okay, thank you. I don't know if anybody could see, but you probably can't see. That's okay. It looks like a regular fence. The question is also what impact can neighbors anticipate from like the visual like vista, given that I did look at exactly where the structure will be located, kind of on the site. What will the visual impacts be when it is a 28-foot tall building relative to, how tall are the evergreens going to be? Let me ask that question.
So we're doing as much as we can to preserve the existing trees around the perimeter of the site. So a lot of those, the ones on the southern
I'm going to ask you again to speak into the mic. It's so that the online people can hear you as well.
I understand.
Thank you so much.
I never think about that.
It's okay.
So on the southern boundary, there are very tall, substantial old evergreens that do a good job of screening. On the east side of the property and the north side of the property, they're primarily deciduous trees. So in the summer months, the canopy is really leafed out, but during the winter months, there's not. So we are bolstering that with additional evergreens to provide additional screening during those winter months. And just to point out also, the current house actually will sit slightly lower than the existing house because the current house is, as we've said, recessed into the hillside a bit there. So as far as view sheds, it's not substantially lower, like a ton, but it is the roof line is lower than the existing house. I don't know if we have the graphic here to show that. So all of that to say, we're doing as much as we can with the landscaping. It will be a mix of conifers and the existing deciduous trees, as well as coniferous shrubs to fill in that understory layer as well, where there might be gaps.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Another question that I have for the petitioner, just as it relates to, there's no real governance specifically to this, but just from a programming standpoint, I want to, for all the commenters that we had, what is the petitioner's response as it relates to a dining hall dedicated to 200 plus people? Are there activities or gatherings? And part of me asking is it intended to be a social hub for 200 plus people, or is it really specifically for the housing of? So could I get a better understanding of kind of why a dining room would be designed in that way?
Sure. So the dining room is set up to have maybe a couple of times a year kind of full capacity, and that would be for large chapter meetings or some special event where all of the local chapter members need to attend. During all of the other times, there's going to be tables and really kind of fixed furniture that's going to limit that occupancy closer to like maybe 75 to 100. And that is going to be really for the people that live there, some of the other chapter members that aren't living in the house, coming for meal events and things like that. That's really going to be the day-to-day use of that space.
Okay, got it. That's helpful. Thank you.
Sure.
So again, getting back to the special exception use evaluation, again, consistent with general objectives of the city comprehensive plan, a little bit still up in the air for me, will be designed, constructed, operated, maintained in a manner that's compatible with existing planned character. While I'm empathetic to the neighbors that live there, I also ask myself, if not necessarily here where there are great life present, I kind of ask myself, like, where else? I mean, really, Pittsfield? I mean, I don't know if that's like a reasonable kind of destination. So, again, I'm a little bit uncertain on that one. Consistent with the general character of the neighborhood, considering population density, design scale, bulk. We've talked about that. And then will not be detrimental to the use, peaceful enjoyment, economic value, or development of neighboring property or the neighborhood area in general. This is probably where we have some of the most, I suppose, clear disagreements as it relates to that particular. The neighbors are certainly opposed to it. So, and then the last one is not have a detrimental effect on the natural environment. And so the evaluation of the development agreement as it relates to electrification and the evaluation of the systems that are proposed, let me ask a question for the petitioner specifically. So on the commercial kitchen front, were there any considerations to try to do a fully electrified building and envelope in general? And what kind of evaluations were done from that standpoint?
Yes, we definitely evaluated it, and there were some cost decisions that were made, and looking for equipment consistency between houses and different things like that. That's really what drove the decision.
Okay, got it. Understood. Sure. Thank you very much. I've talked for a while now. I'll concede the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lee. Commissioner Norden.
I have, maybe for the architect, I'm curious, who made the decision on where to actually situate the house on this parcel? I don't know who. Well, and what I'm trying to get at is, this is frustrating. You're placing this structure just as close to the neighboring properties as you possibly can to do the most disruption to the neighborhood, when it looks to me like you could have scooched it much closer to the road and solved a lot of these problems. I don't understand why the design was done this way.
So we worked with the city of Ann Arbor quite closely to site the building for ingress and egress out of the site and fire department access around the building. So that's really were some of the driving factors for where it got located on the site.
Can I ask a clarifying question right where you are?
Please.
So are you saying that the fire department required you to place the building where it is?
No, the fire department required us to have access to two sides of the building with maintaining a minimum of 150-foot hose lay around the building. So that requires us to get the fire truck next to the building along the parking area in order to gain that hose lay distance around the building.
Can I ask another follow-up right here? So I was on the site today and I was on the site yesterday, and going up the driveway right now, so how are we going to get a fire truck up that slope? So how are you lowering that site enough so that that's not a real big pull, because a standard fire truck trying to go up that slope right now would be problematic?
Yep, and that's an excellent question. It's one, we're building a new entrance drive off of Oxford Road. Fire department requires a maximum of 10% slope on a driveway for no longer than 150 feet. So we had to lower the entire site in order to get a fire truck into the site. We also had to create a front turnaround space, not only for the fire truck, but for the trash receptacle, the city requires that a trash truck not back out into a street, and it must have a space to turn around. That pretty much forced us to put a turnaround in the front of the property. We tried numerous ways to bring this house forward, but as soon as you bring that house forward, you've got no room in the back to turn a fire truck around and provide access for the trash truck to come in, turn around, and exit as well. I can tell you we went through probably 15 iterations of this project with different buildings to try to find the one that reduced the impact to the natural features, the trees around the site, and provided the city's requirements for fire access and trash receptacles.
Back to you, Commissioner Norton. I'll save my comments and question when I get to speak.
The other question I had was why you weren't using induction stoves instead of gas, but you kind of already answered that, the cost. We have an induction stove. It works great. You don't need to have gas to have a really good cooking opportunity. I would encourage you to revisit that decision.
One of the things that also drove that is DTE doesn't have the power to support our kitchen in an electric case at this time.
Because they're working for data centers, or?
They just don't have the facilities in that area to support that type of infrastructure.
Really?
Yeah.
This is frustrating. It's especially frustrating to me to hear that the fire department is driving this. ARG. The fire department would like to have 2-lane highways around everything to maximize getting fire trucks through as quickly as possible. And I'm really sorry to hear that that's what's driving this decision, because I think it's a pretty lousy, I mean, I'm not shooting at you guys. If in fact you tried every which way you could to push it forward to the lot, I'm glad you tried that. It just seems to me but let me just say, I recognize folks' concerns with the sorority life and frustrations with it. I don't imagine it's pleasant. This will accommodate, the reality is the university keeps admitting more students. They have to go somewhere. This will provide a fair bit of housing, even though it's high-end luxury, that's not there currently. That will help the housing market. It's starting, it's taking pressure off of other places these students would go and live. So there are benefits that way. But in terms of finding a design to do this in a way that minimizes the impacts to the setting, squishing the property right in the corner, right next to everybody, just seems to me to be a really bad option. But I understand you're kind of left without choices if the city services folks are telling you that's the only place you can put it. So I don't know. I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Norton. We'll go to Commissioner Weatherby and then Commissioner Hammersmith, and then I imagine Commissioner Dish will be ready.
I just wanted to do a follow-up. Do you have a letter from DTE stating that they don't have the electrical capacity?
We don't have, I wouldn't say we have an official letter, but we have communication with them that the available capacity in close proximity is not there. It would take extensive upgrades, regional upgrades, to be able to get the electric to the building.
Thank you. Commissioner Hammersmith.
Thank you. My first and potentially only question, I have stuff to say, but my only question is for staff. Picking up on the trash and fire, are these requirements due to the number of proposed occupants in this building? I'm just imagining that you wouldn't need a fire truck to be able to turn around in a site as it currently exists with a single-family home.
It is different for single-family homes and multi-family homes. I can't say exactly what the difference is for like the number of beds and things like that, but solid waste won't pick up carts. They need a dumpster when it's more. So I can't speak to the specifics, but yes, it is definitely different than what the requirements would be for a single-family house.
Okay. Let me also ask this follow-up. If the original structure, which sounds like it used to be used as a fraternity or sorority, was maintained, but they moved in a bunch more people, do you think that these how would that impact the fire and trash requirements? You're not building a new building now, so how would it impact it?
Fire code is very complicated, so I don't want to try and answer that one because I don't think I can.
It's fair. I mean, would there just be like a cap on occupants? It's like, well, you can only have like 10 people living here.
Maybe. I think there's like, it can be classified as something different, which means it goes to a different code. And so I've learned a lot from the fire marshal. I've not learned the answer to that. Solid waste does calculations per occupant, and how much trash they'll generate and things like that. So depending on what those calculations say, maybe something might be different, but I can't tell you how.
Okay. I would say that I share Commissioner Norton's frustration with the placement of the building, understanding, I guess, the why. I don't like it. I mean, I don't really understand it, but I understand it. But I have other issues as well. So there are many things that we can't specifically require in developments that are by right, where we're not changing the zoning district. We can't, require anything specific for sustainability, even though we always ask and always want to when we have the banners in front of us. But because there is a special exception use, and there are standards for that, and these are not necessarily cut and dry, which is why we're having this deliberation. So for me, like, that's what I'm focusing on more, and I'm looking specifically at numbers 4 and 5. So 4 is how may the proposed use impact the use, peaceful enjoyment, economic value, or development of the immediate neighborhood and general vicinity. I mean, these are like fairly subjective, I think. I'm not convinced. I'm more convinced by the neighbors that came out and spoke against this than I am by the response in the document from the petitioners. The response was that it will have no material impact, but looking at the plan and the scale, I'm not quite sure how you can argue that. And then more concerning to me, I think, how may the proposed uses affect the environment or natural features on the site and in the general vicinity. And in our Unified Development Code, it specifically says we need to determine if it will not have a detrimental effect on the natural environment. And this is where I think, for me, there are a lot of detrimental effects. Demolishing the existing home, and I have not been in it, but I looked at it on Zillow, and it looks like a perfectly, it does not look like it's falling down. It looks like it's completely usable. It's over 8,000 square feet. I mean, it's not a small home. I feel like it could have been reappropriated into something else. Like, I just have a lot of issues with demolishing something that seems like a perfectly good home, technically historic or not. But if a home built in the late 1800s is going to be taken down, I would want to see the most sustainable building in Ann Arbor being proposed on this site. And I do understand the reality of construction costs, but you don't have to have natural gas in a building. You could be committing to all electric, and you could be writing that into a development agreement. You could have added solar. I mean, the roof is not designed that well for it, and I don't know the trees and everything, but I don't even know if that was explored. There really are alternatives, but you have to try hard. You cannot just ask DTE once. They are going to tell you no. There are ways that you can do this, and it's frustrating that the city of Ann Arbor has this strong commitment to sustainability, and we just aren't seeing it. And I do understand the realities, but it's still frustrating. And then looking at the new site plan, which thank you to the community member that brought us this, specifically, it looks almost entirely impervious, with a substantial amount of what I have to assume is concrete in parking. I assume that it's going to be concrete and not an impervious surface. And as you've already heard, we don't even require parking anymore. So these are things that are very concerning to me. I agree with a couple of the commenters. I think we can do a better job of this. Like, I completely agree with that. And then I think you, Mr. Patterson, had said, and this is not a verbatim quote, but you basically said it's all that you're bringing, like, all these issues, the issues that we have with density. Not that I think density has issues, and I don't think that's exactly what you said, with none of the benefits of increased affordability and increased housing for longer term residents of Ann Arbor. So I think I'm at a no, just so all you guys at the table know where I'm at.
Wow, you're helping us whip votes. Okay, Commissioner Dish.
Okay, so I am extremely concerned about number 5, which is how the proposed uses affect the environment. And I agree with Commissioner Hammerschmidt that demolishing an apparently fairly recently refurbished existing home, demolishing the entire structure, is not a particularly sustainable thing to do. Although you own it. I understand that the amount of impervious surface on this site is related to fire and trash issues, but to me, that is an indication that this project is out of scale. That kind of impervious, the addition of that much impervious surface to give us just 47 beds. I mean, I don't know when this used to be a fraternity or a sorority, how many people it housed then. I would like to know that. That would be useful information for me to think about what this project is doing for housing density here. So we are not talking about a campus adjacent area, and we are not talking about a place where it would be appropriate to have a higher rise structure, such as 5 to 6 or 10 to whatever we've approved elsewhere. So I don't know what I'm not going to compare its increase to it being a single family home. I want to compare its increase to when it used to be a fraternity or sorority. And so I would love to have staff research that because it would help me think about this. But these fire code and trash requirements are related to the number of inhabitants. There is a number under which solid waste doesn't ask for a dumpster, and there is a number under which you don't need this much room for a fire truck to be able to get in and get out. And so, I mean, scale is otherwise somewhat subjective, but I think these are objective indicators. And there is just nowhere in our comp plan that we say we want 16 spaces for 47 beds. There's nowhere that we say that. And there is that, can somebody quickly, the parking ratio?
It was 1 to 3.
1 space for 3 residents. Okay, so how does that compare to Beekman?
Beekman was, I think it's 0.6.
So can you make the other one a point?
Oh, you want me to do math at the table?
Well, I don't have success when I do it.
1/3 is 0.33.
So it'd be 0.33. Okay, thank you. So it is lower. All right, it is lower. But still, I mean, that is not something that we're encouraging. And I will underscore what others have mentioned, that as far as sustainability is concerned, this project is not compatible with the general objectives of the comprehensive plan. There is no solar, there are no batteries, there is, as Mr. Vasquez called in and suggested, no commitment to be part of the SEU. I think the answers about we need gas for this and is they are just not, we don't see, we have seen other buildings do better. And if DTE cannot supply the electricity for this building because there isn't capacity in the area, that is another indication that this is out of scale in terms of the number of inhabitants that it wants to add. And, you know, we are always in the business of trade-offs. And I'm feeling like the trade-offs here are not the payback that I'd like to see. I mean, I'd prefer to see somebody come do a gut rehab of this thing and house 20 people, or I don't know, whatever it used to be. I don't know. I mean, I don't love the gut rehab either, but obviously, because that's not very sustainable. But knocking down a building is big. And when we do that, we get more out of it typically in this city. We have been getting way more units out of building teardowns, especially when we're not talking about teardowns of, is it wrong to say derelict housing, or rundown would be better? I don't know. So I really have reservations about this, and to make a full judgment about it, I would like to know more about what used to be, how many people used to be housed there. We often know that when we look at these things.
So, hearing my colleagues at the table, I want to ask Manager Kelly to help us with our conversation before I make my comments. First of all, could you just apprise the table of the special use exception and the discretion that we have? Many of us at the table have noted that there are concerns about the natural features, maybe even the adverse impact for traffic, pedestrians, bicyclists, circulation, road intersections, etc. I have had mixed feedback about whether or not we can make a decision on that, as a deciding factor. And so if you could just apprise us of how we can wrestle with some of the concerns that have been articulated, since this is a special use exception. And then after hearing from you, I will make my comments.
Yes, there is a area within the special exception use that speaks to the conditions for special exceptions use. You may impose reasonable conditions that reduce detrimental effects to a minimum. So that is possible. Also, you could, for example, say, we're not happy with the alternative features mitigation. We'd like to we would like to see something conditioned on keeping more trees, and we'd like to postpone and have you come back. Or there's also the option to express the general nature of your concerns, which you all have been doing, and postpone the item to give the applicant an opportunity to take another chance at the drawing board for staff to research some of the past conditions, see if there are any scenarios which might be more favorable to the table. That's, of course,
So I think if I'm hearing you correctly, we have some discretion. We can create some conditions based on the conditions of the SEU. We could ask the petitioner to redesign some things based on our concerns. We could also table this matter to a date certain in a future meeting. Did I hear you and understand you correctly?
I might recommend potentially not a date certain.
That is fine, because then that gives more time.
It may make sense to have if there are significant changes, to have a new public hearing, to have new notification to the neighbors, because there is strong interest in this development from the neighborhood.
Okay. Thank you. I'll be back because I have some more questions for you, Planner Kelly. All right. So my comments. So I did spend some time at the site to try to understand, mainly from the comments from the couple at 1835 Cambridge. So I drove the property, then I looked at your property, but you're both up a hill, so I didn't want to trespass in order to take a look, and I didn't want to knock on your door and introduce myself because I knew I might see you here, and it might be considered inappropriate for me to talk to you prior to this time. So I think my big concerns for the petitioner is the parking. This parking is out of scale. 16 parking spaces here is completely unnecessary in my view. And I'm trying to reconcile what I'm hearing you say, which is you needed the space for the fire trucks, you needed the space for the garbage trucks, and then you needed the space for the holding of the snow. Let me clarify that. So if somebody wants to come up and have a dialogue with me, this will be helpful because it's going to go to what I do next. Oh, there's a new speaker.
Hi. Good evening. I'm Spence Harrell. I'm a national consultant, and I do sororities all over the country.
Sure.
So your question on parking. We actually backed into the parking numbers. One, we had to have a couple spaces that are going to be for snow. Take those. We have to have a couple for EV, take those out. We need to have a visitor parking spot or two. We need to have parking spots when there's a move-in. Otherwise, we're going to be having people on the street with it. We have a cook. We have cleaning people that will come. So we backed into this. We would love more parking. I mean, we really would, but we can't get it here. And so we backed into the minimum number that we felt that was necessary to have the least inconvenience on the neighbors here, and also meet the minimum needs of the daily comings and goings. This is not a long-term parking lot. This is actually a functional parking lot for the people that will be going there day in and day out, house director, other people like that. There was also mentioned earlier, and I wanted just to clarify this about electricity and about the existing house. Before
you do there, because this is my time.
Okay,
and
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. You didn't know. You didn't know, so I'm just letting you know this is my time. And we're going to stay on the parking. So the only reason why you have to do the EV is because you have so many parking spaces. If you reduce the number of parking spaces, it's proportional, right, to the number of EV. So when you say it the way that you say it, you make it sound as if we are requiring you to do it. That is not our decision. You are in charge of this site. You decide how much parking to be there, and based on that parking, it then flows that you have to have different things. So this is my issue. Like, as the 4.5 years I've sat at this table, the number one thing that I talk about is parking. We have too much parking. We have too much car space. So I'm going to say something that's not going to make the neighbors happy. I wish you would extend the housing into this parking. That would be better from my point of view than having this parking here. But that's just it for me for the parking. So thank you for that. I'm going to keep going, and if I need to ask you to come back, I will on that. So the big challenge that I am, and this is another thing that I've discovered because Planner DeLeo told me this: whatever the fire marshal wants, the fire marshal gets. I think that was a direct quote. And so I'm just really perplexed that we have to situate this building in the way that we, as these developer or this petitioner has, in order to meet this requirement. I'm very reticent to have any opposition to housing. There are just too many people in our community that need to be housed. As I drove in this evening, I count the number of people that I see standing outside the Delana Center. There's somewhere between 35 and 50 people who are there that are looking for a bed tonight. So it is just incomprehensible to me to sit at this table and vote against housing. I cannot do that. But I recognize the concern that you all have articulated, and I appreciate you all coming. I wanted to say that earlier, but I opened the floor faster than I should have. And I appreciate just the regular concerns that you have as neighbors. Your neighborhood is changing. You have concerns about the changing nature of your neighborhood. Some of what we're dealing with is by right. Commissioner Lee and others have noted that in this residential area, some kind of housing can go here, and a sorority and fraternity can go here because this is an area that's zoned for them to exist. And so what we want to do is come towards the petitioner in a way that allows them to do what they want to do with the property that they own, while recognizing that you as neighbors are impacted by that. And I think we, if the table is in agreement, could sort of have a dialogue about what we'd like to see in this petition that is absent, and then have a conversation with the petitioner to see if they would like us to just vote on that now, or if we can talk about a opportunity for them to take our feedback and maybe come back to us. So, Manager Kelly, I told you I would be coming back to you, and now I am. So what is your advice and counsel here, given what you just heard me say?
Well, one option that I failed to mention previously, which may be obvious, is that you could deny because
yes, we know.
find that it does not satisfy.
And everyone is clear on that. Okay.
The findings to your satisfaction. So I want to make sure I put it all out on the table. My recommendation to you.
Not recommendation, advice.
My advice to you. I mean, I think that there are things in this proposal that the table is struggling with. Things I've heard are obviously parking was mentioned, the demolition of the home, the scale.
Yeah, I haven't even gotten to the trees. There's a lot of trees on the property
the impact
that are going
to
to be
neighboring
impacted.
properties, and whether or not those items are reflected in the findings. And I think some of you are really wrestling with those. So you could give the applicant a chance to satisfy those, because you are, if the will of the bodies, we want to try to find a way to make a development, a special exception use that does meet these findings, that works with, what we would like to see and how we are interpreting the development vis-a-vis the development code. And you could ask them to come back to you with something. It would not be over. It would go back to site plan review. They could propose changes. That, of course, would have a cost to the applicant.
Yeah, and I'm cognizant of those costs. This process is not cheap. It is very expensive to get to this part and then have to redo site plan and resubmit that, because they would have to go back through fire, sewer, water, stormwater. They'd have to go through engineering again. Those are substantial costs that we would be sending back to the petitioner. Okay, Commissioner Lee.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to ask, what is the current state of the house? We talked about this, and I'm asking the petitioner this question. Can you tell me kind of like what the property is like, and did you evaluate ever kind of reusing the existing? Because part of one of the issues that we're having is embodied carbon within a building, right? The restoration, reuse. Obviously, you know the condition of the house better than we do. So could you just give us a little bit of background on that decision making?
Yes. When we initially came to look at this property, we did an evaluation, and the first consideration was buying the house and using it as it was intended, as a sorority fraternity. We looked at that. Then we looked at the life safety features of the house. No sprinklers, and we have to put sprinklers in. I'm not letting my daughter, who wasn't a sorority, live in a house without sprinklers. Number two, there's this thing called Americans with Disability Act. We have to have some compliance. That house has absolutely no compliance. It's on 5 different levels. Then we look at the rooms. We look at all the ins and outs of it, and basically, there's no way of doing it without tearing the house down. I've done a lot of evaluations on similar properties in almost 30 states, and this one, there's no way you can't put a square peg in a round hole on this one.
Got it. Thank you. That's helpful. One of the things I did want to say, actually, is that it does take a tremendous amount of work to get to this point. I also do want to say they are planning on replacing an 8-inch water supply pipe. Is that correct? Yeah. Please tell me if that would constitute, this is for staff, that would constitute as a public benefit.
It's a requirement for them to do their stormwater, and this was the system that they agreed upon with our review staff for stormwater management.
Okay, gotcha. All right, thank you. The other thing that I also wanted to point out was I did think about what it means to have this much impermeable surface. They are putting in that kind of like filtration device. It was mentioned on the site plan. I do think also that is a benefit to have that kind of filtration device. So there are things to like about it, and I will be a little bit more clear on, again, we have to be, like, while there's discretion, we have to be as objective as we can in applying the special exception use application. So, like, I put scoring to it. Will be consistent with the general objectives of the city comprehensive plan. I gave kind of like a 5 out of 10. It's kind of a maybe because I think this is resi in terms of the overall use, and I'm not sure that.
And when Commissioner Lee says resi, he is referring to residential.
Yeah, sorry.
For those of you who might need to know that.
Will be designed, constructed, operated, maintained in a manner that's compatible with the existing and planned character of the general vicinity. Designed, yes. I looked at the overall. At least the side of it, and I think Axonometrics look like it's actually a nicely built looking house. Constructed, yes, I have no doubt. Actually, the GC will do a very good job. Operated, yeah, kind of, this is where I give it kind of a 6 out of 10, maintain, and I think reasonable people could probably disagree on this particular point. Could it be operated in a manner that's compatible? So gave it a 7 out of 10, and then the next point is, will be consistent with the general character of the neighborhood, population density, design scale, and bulk intensity character of activity. Again, I think this is where we have reasonable disagreement on what that is. I gave it a 5 out of 10. Will not be detrimental to the use, peaceful enjoyment, economic value of the development of the neighboring property. I gave this kind of a lower score, given the fact that we do have folks that are really speaking out against this. And I do think that there should be more collaboration done with the residents to talk about what kind of mitigation can they expect, right? The arborvitaes or the screening, hey, there is mitigation in terms of noise, visibility. I do think that there's a lot of really great things that are being done at the property, but I can't reasonably say that this won't be necessarily not detrimental to the neighbors. And so I give it a pretty low grade, and then will not have a detrimental effect on the natural environment. The reason that I asked that question about the existing condition is because there is embodied carbon within that structure. You are demolishing it, and then obviously we're introducing new construction to it. I gave it kind of a lower grade as well, just given the fact that there are 47 trees, I think landmarks. I think that's what I heard. I did see a total of, I think, 50 and change total trees kind of being cut down. But also, there's mitigation funds, 23,000 and change also being contributed. So all of that to say, I actually am a little, again, still a little bit torn on this particular one, but I did want to articulate the rationale and give also the applicant the due credit of the amount of work that it takes to get to this place. It is a well thought out in terms of site plan. Obviously, there's detrimental effects, or there could be. I can't say definitively there won't be detrimental effects to the neighborhood, and I think that's the criteria that I'm going off of. So I'm inclined to, push to a vote, I'm inclined to vote no on this one right now, but I would like to give the petitioner some time to work with residents to talk about how to properly kind of mitigate negative impacts or the detrimental impacts to economic value, things of that nature. So that's where I stand currently. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lee. I'm going to use the discretion of the chair, ask the petitioner come up. Let's have a conversation about this so we can figure out where we go from here. So who wants to come and talk with me for a bit? It's all right. You're all nice. You're all friendly. There's no hostility from the table towards you. We're happy to just have a conversation. But we also need the engineer to come up because we're going to ask you for some stuff. So let's talk about the parking. Could we cut it in half?
2 ADA spots, 2 snow, 1 EV, house director, cook.
I think you're getting there.
Can we get to 10?
Can get to 8.
How about 12?
We only need, what's our ratio for EV?
For residential, 10%. It's 90 capable of
having a conversation, everybody.
Installed.
We're just having a conversation. Okay. Okay.
You just have to make sure the neighbors will not get mad with me because they wanted me to get more parking on site, okay?
Sure. I don't think we can address that part. I'm trying to stay constrained to the site and where you are. Help us understand why no solar, why no geothermal in this project at all.
One, geothermal was our first option to look at it. Unfortunately, to try to save all the trees and to meet the ADA requirements and everything else, the house ended up where it was, and we could not come up with a geothermal system that had any reliability whatsoever to put into it. We've investigated it. I've got projects in Tennessee with it. I've got projects in Texas with that same system. And right now, you would almost have to put a gun to my head to recommend anybody put it in because of all the ongoing maintenance and cost problems we're having with that. So that was our first option to look at that. That's why we came up with this VRF system, which is mostly electric for it. But we look at the assembly, the amount of the code, and when you can do all that, the numbers were so close that we couldn't really make sense of it. We have 1,000 amp service on this house. That's pretty much typical for any sorority that I've been involved with. I've gone up to 1,200. if we tried to go more and do electric everywhere, including the kitchen, and I will tell you, I've built in San Jose, I've got an electric kitchen in North Carolina, I would never put that in my house. Gas is way more efficient. We get the food cooked quicker, and I can't get into
that one's going to be hard to pass this table.
Yeah.
But I appreciate your experience. What about solar? If it's a 23,000 square foot facility, that's a lot of solar. That could do that. And I manage a building that's 28,000 square feet that has a southern exposure, and so we would be able to run our entire building, including our heating and cooling, if we could get solar on our roof. So why not solar
Well, we had that discussion,
as an option?
And we looked at it, and then my question was, well, what do we do with it, with the power? And then I was under the assumption, and I believe I was told, that we're going to have batteries on site to store it. And I'm thinking, I'm not going to have my daughter live in a building that has a bunch of batteries.
Your daughter makes a lot of decisions for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I know.
But that was the reason. Battery storage was a big concern.
All right. Anything else I can ask before I turn to you all to see what you all would like to do? Okay, Manager Kelly, I think we're good. Thank you so much.
I would just like to say, I don't feel like there is a real strong coalescence around specific conditions that I'm hearing. I think there's sort of general dissatisfaction, and so I think it may be, if you would like to identify deficiencies from the findings, either have someone aggregate it yourself as the chair from what you heard, or if you would like to do a final round of just the specific to the deficiencies from the findings.
That's good.
And then ask the applicant if they would like to address them or have a determination tonight.
Okay, that sounds like a plan for me. I was going to move in that direction by asking the table what they wanted to do, but I appreciate your guidance. I'll start with you, Commissioner Norton.
I'm sorry to drag this out. I'm looking at the site plan that you submitted, and I think I'm seeing...
Is this a question to the petitioner?
It's a question to the petitioner.
Okay, so if you all can come back. Commissioner Norton has a question for you.
Come back. There are...
You're getting your steps in.
Pages... Looks to me like you are showing several different alternative layouts, several of which that would put the structure closer to the road that I'm guessing you abandoned. Is that... So this is the site plan that we got in our packet. C43.
Yep, C43.
I can speak to that a little bit.
And C42.
Sorry, I can speak to that a little bit. Yes, those are the two alternative analyses that are required by the city. These were plans that we initially tried, and either the grading didn't work, and also more importantly, it impacted the natural features to a much greater extent. We weren't able to save as many trees.
Because you have so much parking. But if you reduced your parking, you could move the building forward and not impact so many trees. Correct?
This plan also doesn't provide for turnaround for fire truck and trash truck.
Which the city is telling you need to have? Absolutely, or they're telling you we would really like to see you have that?
Yeah, trash trucks cannot back out onto the city streets. That's right in the city's code. They have to have a place on site to turn around.
So we're mixing things, so if it was a lower occupancy, then you wouldn't have to have the pickup of the trash. And this was the same issue that we had with the Robinson Brothers project on Scioto Church, 75 townhouses. They wanted to have individual carts, but Waste Management said, no, you had to have two screened dumpsters on the site, and that was how they wanted to do it. And this is just a from my point of view, this is just a deficiency that impacts our housing, and it makes our housing costs actually more expensive.
Okay, I'm sorry to make you come back up. Thank you. That's how that clarifies.
Okay, so what are the things that we've articulated? Commissioner Mills started us off with parking and the maximum scale.
And I've subsequently done a little bit of BSNA looking at square footages, that's their property tax.
That's the property tax. It's
That's
not a
BSNA.
euphemism for something
That's
else.
who does the thing. It looks like 707, you folks are in the neighborhood, so 707 Oxford seems like the biggest one. It's the Phi Gamma is 16,903 square feet. Just like, that's the biggest, that's the largest building that I could find in that area. So this is 38% larger. Yeah, and so that would be about the scale, and again, the parking is on natural features.
Yep. All right. Commissioner Dish, you were concerned about the occupancy of the development. You wanted to know what the previous occupancy of the fraternities that were there, so that you would have an opportunity to compare scale. And you mentioned one other thing, which I did not write down, but I had in my head.
So the deficiencies in the deficiencies in the analysis for me are, number one, consistent with the general objectives of the comprehensive plan. And that's, for me, where parking falls.
Okay.
And where the concerns about the demolition of the building fall. And then number three is where we bring up the design, scale, and bulk of this building compared to existing ones. And thank you, Commissioner Mills, for doing research and math at the table. And then, yeah, I think oh, right, and then the environment or natural features, that's where, and this actually overlaps a little bit with the comprehensive plan because of the sustainability goals of the comprehensive plan. But so I think that the lack of solar and the, we are urging people to speak with our consultants who can help people understand how to achieve greener buildings early in the process. Okay. And I haven't heard any evidence that that was done. So for me, number 5 is a concern because there's no attempt to offset the energy usage of this building.
Thank you, Commissioner Dish. Commissioner Norton, you have articulated concerns around the placement of the building. Is there anything else that...
if we were going to ask for some reconsideration, I would ask, get rid of some of the parking that you have and see if you can use that space to get the building, to situate the building to save more trees and give a little bit more space. Move the building a little bit forward on the lot that way. I would also ask, I'm still just trying to wrap my head around why a fire truck needs to be able to turn around on the property itself.
For the same reason that the garbage truck can't back up.
But a fire truck can't back up out into streets?
It's probably a safety issue.
We need to revisit our fire.
Oh, no. I want to put that on our work plan to have a conversation with the fire marshal about this. But
well, yes,
Commissioner Lee,
this is determined by the number of inhabitants, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
because they have to put the fire truck closer.
We're kind of dancing around the question of do we need to accommodate a structure that would house this many students? But that's really what this is boiling down to. Does it need to be as large as it is? And I'm really grappling with.
No, we hear you.
We're trying to provide opportunities for more housing. That's consistent with the plan.
That is.
But we're trying to do it in ways that don't undermine things like protecting tree canopy and create stormwater problems because that's climate adaptation. That's consistent with the plan.
But we have to recognize that individual property owners can clear cut their entire trees. We have no ability to do that.
We have to recognize that there's a property owner here who owns the property, who has a lot he or she could do on this property outside of what is being requested.
Yep.
And we need to be reasonable in evaluating these standards that we're working with that are really pretty fuzzy.
Yep.
And hard to evaluate. So I'm grappling. I wish there was some way to get rid of some of the parking and tweak the design to see if it could minimize some of the impacts that the neighbors are concerned about. That's what I would prefer.
Thank you, Commissioner Norton. Commissioner Lee.
My advice, as I'm looking at the SEU application, I would say please focus on working with the neighbors about the detrimental to the use, peaceful enjoyment, economic value of the neighboring properties. And I would absolutely try to focus on the detrimental effect on natural environment and really kind of work through, okay, get a letter from DT, right? Say, hey, like we have actually exhausted some of the opportunities in this particular area. That said, I mean, I personally think it's kind of a nice looking building. That's from my standpoint. So, but I would say that those two are the two kind of areas where it's not scoring in a way that would push it towards a favorable adjudication on this. So
Thank you, Commissioner Lee. Commissioner Weatherby.
I think maybe reducing parking and more sustainability, but I have maybe fewer reservations than many of you, so.
All right. For myself, it's the parking. I think if you could reduce that parking, we did a little chair's discretion. You got down to 12. I want you to get to 8. And then if you work in what Commissioner Norton, that might work. But our planning manager suggested to ask you what your thoughts are about that. If you want to take our consideration and come back, I don't think that would necessitate. Well, I guess if you move the building, they would have to do a new site plan. And if they remove the parking, they would have to do a new site plan. And both of those things would start the whole clock over. Am I correct?
So, right, if there's no decision tonight, then they remain in review, in active review.
Excellent. So then they can send everything back as a revision.
We would allow the applicant to go back to the drawing board to consider. If they would not like a decision tonight, for example, then they would resubmit to us when they are ready with new plans. Those would be routed for a new round of reviews and discussions with staff about how modified plans from those in front of you in the packet tonight.
But it wouldn't be a complete restart where they'd have to start back at the beginning.
Because
and then
there's already an understanding of what the floodplain is on the site. There's already an understanding of the soil conditions. There's already an inventory of trees, et
I'm
cetera.
specifically concerned about that because there's a lot of cost in development, and I want the neighbors to understand that to get to this process, I mean, our average time from application to decision is 280 days across this, and that's time and that's money for somebody. And so we want to be very cognizant here to both hear your concerns, but also make sure that we're not becoming onerous for developers who would like to build in the community. I don't know who you are, but I haven't asked you to come up yet. Oh, I did. I asked you what your thoughts were. So introduce yourself and tell us what your thoughts are, and then we will move from there.
I appreciate it. My name is Ron Natus.
Hi.
I'm an attorney from Farmington Hills, and I'm representing the applicant. I just wanted to say a couple of things about this question, which is what our thoughts are. And the biggest thought is there's a school year that's going to start in a year from September, and construction schedules. And so we are desperate to get something moving forward. And obviously, we're here, we need a yes, and we can't move forward. And so if there are significant issues that we can address, we are willing to do that, and if you table it tonight, we can come back. Not our first choice by a long stretch, I can assure you. I mean, I just sort of one general comment, which is that, you know, and I'm sympathetic to all of the comments. I get all the concerns, but at the end of the day, it's a sorority that needs to go somewhere, and we are putting a lot of people in this house trying to maximize that space. And a couple of ideas here, which is that the floor plan of the current house isn't really much different. I think it's about 8,000 square feet, and ours is about, well, 7,800 square feet. So we're not really taking up a lot more space on the lot. We are going up one more story. You're getting more square footage total, but if you look at the elevations, what we've done is purposely gone down so that we aren't higher than any of the other houses. We are within the framework of what these other houses are in terms of height relative to neighbors. And in fact, on one of the sides, if you look at the design, you see that you're only actually seeing the top part of the house. And we have designed all of this, these buffers, and perhaps we haven't adequately presented that to you tonight to be able to convince
No,
you.
I don't think we've had any concern with the height of the development.
You've spoken about the scale. And if you're talking about the number.
But that's the square footage
right, so
over those multiple years. Well, I don't want to get into a back and forth with you. I think you gave me the answer that I needed, which was you're open to a postponement. Is that correct?
I didn't hear what you said.
That you are open to a postponement of this decision. You don't want us to decide tonight.
I think that's a fair statement.
Okay, great. That's what I needed to know. Planner Kelly, can you advise us? Is that just a motion that a commissioner makes to table this?
The Planning Commission could make a motion to table the 805 Oxford, proposal and to a date uncertain.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, it's
so moved
multi-part,
by Commissioner Mills. Do we have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Hammersmith. Do we have a discussion of the motion to table? Commissioner Norden?
I just want to point out, I think if we read
This is on the motion to...
The motion to table.
That's what we're talking about, okay?
That I'm in favor of tabling. I want to point out that if we read our requirements for this development really strictly, will not have a detrimental effect on the environment, will not be detrimental to use, peaceful enjoyment, economic of the property value. I think the way the applicant filled out the SE project wasn't really, it was a very fluffy response that wasn't really critical or accurate. I think there are a lot of concerns here to be addressed, and I think if anything, we would have more strength in turning this down than we would approving it, given the terminology in our code. So I really would encourage, I totally get the cost and the trouble that this is for the applicant and understand that, but there's some valid concerns being raised here about the fit in the setting and the natural features that I think could be done better that would make it much easier for us to approve this project following our own standards. So that's why I think tabling it is an appropriate thing to do.
Just to clarify, we have a motion to postpone to a date uncertain. Not to table it. Sorry.
Right, okay, thank you.
Just so that those of us who are wonky are getting the right wonk. Other commissioners? Well, we got to have fun tonight, friends. This is, it's been 2.5 hours of this conversation, so. All right. Can I do this as a voice vote, or do I need to do a roll call vote?
It could be a voice vote.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. I'm going to recess us for 5 minutes. We'll return at 9:31, and then I can take your questions. Exciting. Let's return to our meeting, and I'll call us back to order. It's 9:36. That takes us up to 10B, regular business, 414 South Main Street, Ashley Muse. This is REZ 260001, a petition to amend the supplemental regulations of the Ashley Muse Planned Unit Development, PUD. Proposed changes would allow all permitted uses in the D1 downtown core district in the high-rise portion of the site. No changes are proposed to the site plan or low-rise townhouses permitted uses. The PUD and the site plan were originally approved in 1999. Staff's recommendation is approval. We'll start with up to a 10-minute presentation from the petitioner, and then a staff presentation. We will have a public hearing. I'll read the motion, and then the Planning Commission will have its discussion. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Scott Monzel. I'm an attorney of counsel with Deaver EB ISSA.
I'm going to take this off the screen so that it's not something else. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I guess I can talk while she's doing that. 301 North Main Street, Suite 100. With me also is Steve Calabat. He's one of the owners of the site. And before starting, I just want to recognize Council Member Dish's reference to the national champions. As having an undergrad and law degree from U of M, I wore my best maize and blue tie. So, fun night last night. So I'm representing 414 South Main Street, LLC. They own 2 condominium units. The ground floor is Unit 1, and the floors 2 through 7 are Unit 2, in what's affectionately called the high-rise portion of the Ashley Muse PUD. This is a request to amend the supplemental regulations, which were originally adopted in 1999, to update the uses that are permitted in those 2 units to add the D1 uses, which would effectively extend the D1 uses 1 property to the south of where the current line between D1 and this PUD start. The goal is pretty simple. They want this building to be similar to the other buildings in the Main Street corridor as far as the uses that are permitted, so that it can remain competitive into the future. As you noted, there's no changes to the site plan. There's no changes proposed to the site at all. This is simply a text amendment regarding the supplemental regulations. The D1 zoning category is immediately to the north, the gas station, and then William Street, and then extending to the north. On all the other sides of the site are D2. Originally, when this was proposed in the late 90s, the city plans called for a high-rise or a higher density on the north end of the site, and transitioning to the more residential neighborhoods to the south, and that's exactly the way the plan worked and has been developed. It was consistent with all the plans, the city plans in the 1990s, and was approved by City Council. It was originally a PUD because there were 3 zoning categories that composed that site. The developer wanted to do a mixed-use development with underground parking. The PUD zoning was the only district that would allow for those kind of uses, so that's how it proceeded. The original PUD did provide the city with certain benefits. They wanted mixed-use type uses. They wanted high quality of design, pedestrian orientation, affordable units that were actually on the site, and the Ashley Muse walkway connector. Those were all benefits of the PUD at the time, and they, of course, have been achieved by the successful completion of that entire site. But times have changed since 1999. The original PUD in this office building contemplated DTE uses in the entire building for DTE and its unregulated subsidiaries. I can remember talking to Paul Potter, the president of Syndico, because I actually worked on this way back then, and I said, Paul, of course DT is always going to be in that building forever and ever and ever with its thousands of employees, but 1 North Main has some residential uses. Why don't we stick in there that maybe multifamily residential uses would also be appropriate? It was almost an afterthought, but it made it into the original PUD in 1999. So fast forward to 2020, we have COVID. DTE basically vacated the site and concluded that it no longer needed any of the office workers there. And they put the site up, the condo parts up for sale. The LLC purchased the vacant space in late 2021 or so with the idea of taking advantage of the multifamily residential use allowed in there, and they've converted into a successful multifamily residential development. But even back then, they were concerned about the long-term viability of that particular building. And so you may remember back in 2022, we actually came and started the process of this same process, asking to extend the uses in the 1999 PUD to recognize the change in the city's policies, the changing office environment, what have you, in order to keep that building competitive into the future. And so here we are today. It took quite a while for us to get in front of you formally, but basically, again, the goal is simply to add the D1 uses into the Unit 2, which is floors 2 through 7, add the D1 uses minus residential, which was a recommendation of the staff, on the ground floor so that it remains non-residential but pedestrian-oriented. And so the goal is, again, to enhance the flexibility of that building to keep it competitive into the future. This request would meet the current land use elements in the downtown plan, and it would also be consistent with the 2050 master plan amendments that have been working its way through the city process. And we believe it meets the standard for a text amendment. The change, we think, would promote the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of the city and be consistent with all of the adopted plans of the city. So we look forward to having a discussion with you about that, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. We'll turn now to Planner Malene Cochran for a staff presentation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just have a few more things to say. The applicant did a good job of outlining the process, and you have seen this a few times when they came in 2022 and then paused until the UDC was updated for PUDs for owners to be able to propose changes to their own units rather than everybody having to do it. And they did come before you for the required pre-PUD conference in December of 2025. So this is to allow all permitted uses of the D1 just in the high-rise portion of the site. The applicant mentioned that the supplemental regulations have already been amended a few times to add additional uses, and the surrounding areas are zoned D1 and D2, so the permitted uses for those districts are appropriate for this area. They are proposing these changes on the 2nd through 7th floors, and then staff has proposed simplifying the language for the requirements on the 1st floor, which is also owned by the applicant. Right now in the supplemental regulations, they are very long and complicated and refer to different areas of the 1st floor. So staff is proposing to simplify for interpretation to just be all permitted D1 uses except for residential to keep activated uses on the 1st floor. Other than that, I'll reiterate that staff does not believe that the proposed changes would negatively impact the original findings that established this district. The site would still be developed with a mix of retail, residential, and office uses in downtown, and would retain the strong architectural design, pedestrian orientation, and limited vehicular access. There are a few other minor staff proposed changes that align with updates to the Unified Development Code, so striking parking requirements since there's no longer a minimum in the high-rise, and then also some number changes for references to code chapters. And that's it for me.
Great, thank you so much. We'll turn now to a public hearing on this item. This is an opportunity for individuals to speak up to 3 minutes on this item. We'll first hear from those of you who are present with us in chambers, then we'll turn to remote participants. To speak remotely, press *9 if on phone or use the raise hand feature if on Zoom. For phone access, dial 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 977-6634-1226. City staff will identify callers by the last 3 digits of their phone number or by their name if they're on Zoom. You'll hear an announcement when it's your turn to speak. Please move to a quiet area and mute any background noise. For all participants, please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. Is there anyone present in chambers who would like to address us on this item? Manager Kelly, do we have any remote participants?
No, none with their hands raised.
Great. I will close the public hearing and read the motion. The Ann Arbor City Planning Commission recommends that the mayor and the city council approve the amendments to the Ashley Muse 414 South Main Street Plan Unit Development Supplemental Regulations. Moved by Commissioner Mills, seconded by Councilmember Dish. We are in discussion. Who would like to kick us off? Are we ready to vote? Okay, Commissioner Lee would like to kick us off.
Yeah, just a quick question. I did see that there was a redaction in Section G of the supplemental regulations, and it has to do with the redaction of the parking space requirement. And I just wanted to make sure that that was intended to mirror the no minimum parking requirement. Is that correct? Is there any practical considerations as a result of that? I just wanted to ask.
Not really. The site has an underground parking structure with 120 spaces. They own 95, so the elimination of the parking requirement won't really affect them. They already have adequate parking.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. All right, sounds good. I think that's pretty much about it. I mean, we've talked about this ad nauseum, I think, previously, so.
Great. Commissioner Norton.
A technical question for staff. Can I show you this to you? This map that you gave us in the packet has...
We can't hear you, Commissioner Norton.
I'm looking at the map that was in the packet with the aerial image of the zoning, and the low-rise condominiums are highlighted as if that's the project that's being affected, but it's actually the Hyatt Tower, right? Or am I missing something?
Yeah, that's a mistake in the map.
So the tower should have been...
The full parcel is the whole PUD. The one that's included in the staff report has the entire, but yes,
okay.
That is just
right,
a
so just to point
highlighting.
out, that's an incorrect image. Okay, all right, just wanted to clarify.
Are we ready to vote? Nope. Commissioner Lee.
Just by way of questions, what do you plan to do on the ground floor? And the reason I ask is, practically speaking, I understand the rationale. Please come up. And I'm only thinking because there are specific, this is an important corridor. There are specific references to keeping it activated, and I understand the rationale behind it, and that's great. Would just like to hear practically what you're going to do.
Stephen Calabat, part of the developer-owned property here. Largely to keep it as retail and office, more or less the way it is now, and there's a lobby, an elevator lobby, and some retail, and that's more or less it, I think. So
okay.
Yeah, whatever uses that we can use in D1 would be great. Minus the residential component as we talked about.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you. My hope is that you continue to keep it vibrant, activated, so that pedestrians feel great and safe to walk past it. Thank you.
I'm not going to ask again. Any additional comments from commissioners? Manager Kelly, would you call the roll?
On the motion as presented, Weich.
Yes.
Hammerschmidt.
Yes.
Mills.
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
Dish.
Yes.
Weatherby.
Yes.
And Norton.
Yes.
That carries.
Good luck. Thank you. That takes us to 10C, Southtown Site Plan for Planning Commission approval. 1601 South State Street, SP 25-0028. A proposed site plan for a 215,500 square foot, 8-story residential building. Approval of this site plan will replace a previously approved site plan for a comparable development mass with a redesigned tower above the podium, elimination of the commercial uses on the first floor, reconfiguration of site access, and increased number of dwelling units from 216 to 289. The site is 1.7 acres zoned C1A/R with conditions. Staff recommendation is approval. We'll first hear from the petitioner, then a staff presentation from Planner DeLeo with a dedicated public comment period. I'll read the motion, and then the Planning Commission will have its discussion. Welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right. Good evening. My name is Jason Van Ryn. I work for Naderveld. We are the civil engineers, planners, surveyors for this project. I'm also joined tonight by several members of the development team and the ownership group, and we're all here tonight to answer any questions you may have about the project. I'm sorry.
Just make sure we can see this. All right, no problem. I'll restart yours. Can fix your time.
Perfect. Sorry about that. We appreciate the opportunity to be before you tonight requesting site plan approval for the Southtown project. Over the past 6 months, we've been working closely with the city staff and other various departments to refine and revamp the site plan into something that we believe is more viable and better positioned for success in today's market. As noted in the planning staff report, the proposed site plan complies with all applicable ordinance requirements and conditions of the previously approved rezoning, and therefore we do believe that it meets the criteria for site plan approval. With that, I'd like to turn the remaining time over to Heidi Posher with 4M Real Estate Development, the owner and developer of the project. Heidi will walk you through some key updates that we've made to the plan since the previous approval.
Thanks, Jason. Let's see, how do we take that one down? Okay, good. The first slide shows the difference of the first site plan that was approved previously and the revised plan proposal. The biggest change to the overall concept is more stacking and more uniform creation of units. We found that the original site plan had a couple of issues. One was it just wasn't penciling very well. It was a beautiful building, but just in terms of once we got into the pragmatics of costing, there were a number of issues that were going to be difficult. So one of the major changes that we made to the building design is to create a more a replicable unit size, better stacking, and we actually shrunk down the footprint of the building to create extra space for the microgrid, which I know is a topic that we discussed quite a bit, I think a couple of years ago. We were mostly focused on the fueling of the microgrid and the energy, the fuel usage, and we never really got into the layout of the microgrid, the equipment, or how it was going to be placed on the site. So in retrospect, once we decided to really take a look at reconceptualizing the design for better construction efficiency and cost efficiency, it made sense to also take a look at how we were going to lay out the microgrid, thinking ahead to AHJ commentary and approvals. It just made more sense to bring the whole planning, the site plan, back into that process and to make sure everybody was on the same page. So that's what we've done. There is pretty good comparison of how density is impacted. Intensity of use is impacted. Traffic actually goes down, which I think is probably helpful. The number of units that we were able to bring into the development actually increased too. So that, again, in terms of constructability and cost efficiency, is a big improvement in this new plan. The biggest change, other than just the footprint of the building, is the separate area for the microgrid. There is a smaller internal inside the building layout for the microgrid that houses mostly computer equipment. None of the large-scale production equipment for the energy system is inside. It's now all outside. And if you recall from the first go-around in terms of looking at the microgrid, that was batteries. It is fuel cells. There's a carbon capture system, which takes up quite a bit of space. There's also extensive geothermal, which doesn't really require much above-ground space, just the manifolds and the connections to the building HVAC system. But those are part of this layout as well. Very sustainable project, as you know. I'm obviously not going to read this to you, but there are some very green sustainability features in terms of the stormwater management. The microgrid itself has just a ton of sustainability features, not only just in terms of the equipment that's used, but just philosophically how the HVAC components of the building, so the mechanical systems of the building, are marrying up with the microgrid in terms of its energy production. We'll be using substantially less source energy. So in this case, that's gas. And but the important thing is that, and we've kind of already gone through that. I'm happy to answer questions about that again. But just in terms of the overall use of energy, it'll be substantially less. And then we made some enhancements to the bicycle parking, which is kind of in advance of what the city is planning on doing officially, or has voted to do officially. But I think we got a little more assertive with our bike parking as well. I think the rest of these drawings are just referenced in order to help with question answering as and if needed. But other than that, that's kind of the overview of how things have changed in this site plan.
Thank you so much. We'll turn to Planner DeLeo for a staff presentation. Thank you all. You can have a seat until we call you back.
Thank you very much. I think the team did a fantastic job with the great overview, so I'll try to be extra concise for clarity. This is the Southtown site plan for Planning Commission approval, located at 1601 South State Street. And for some details, the building is about 230,000 square feet. It's 8 stories. Would contain 289 apartments, 41 parking space. Yeah. The site is also about 1.7 acres. It is zoned, as mentioned, C1A/R with conditions. The site was granted a variance, which runs with the land, so it is still applicable to the proposed project. The variance is regarding the floor area ratio and what is or is not included. Including the variance, the proposed site plan meets all of the applicable development standards, such as area, height, and placement, and all of the required procedures and so forth. Staff is recommending approval, and I'm happy to, as well, answer any follow-up questions or elaborate on more specific details.
Thank you, Planner DeLeo. We'll now have a dedicated public comment period. This is an opportunity for individuals to speak up to 3 minutes on this item. We'll first hear from those of you who are present with us in chambers, then remotely. Then we will hear from remote participants. To speak remotely, press star 9 if on phone, or use the raise hand feature if on Zoom. For phone access, dial 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 977-663-1226. City staff will identify callers by the last 3 digits of their phone number or by name if on Zoom. You will hear an announcement when it's your turn to speak. Please ensure you're in a quiet area and mute any background noise. For all participants, whether in person or remote, please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. Is there anyone present in chambers who'd like to speak on this item?
Thank you, Chair White. Ken Arbor again. 28 Haverhill Court. I backed this project strongly the first time around because of the sustainability features, the self-sufficient microgrid powered by solar panels, battery, and fuel cells, and the pledge of negative carbon emissions. This was unique and remains unique in terms philosophically. To date, with possible exception of Viridian. Well, actually, Viridian is pretty impeccable in terms of sustainability as well. But the petitioner, I'm going into an area I'm really not qualified to talk about, which is legal. The petitioner, Southtown by 4M, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy on January 27th. You probably know. Claims of $35 million by banks and other creditors. Apparently, the secured creditors are allowing the project to go forward for now. I'm not privy to those discussions, but it's, again, based on my limited knowledge, an asset liquidation seems like a possibility at some point. Now, the zoning goes with the property, but the development agreement does not. That's owner-specific, right? Again, I'm not on solid ground here. So if ownership changes, then the development agreement gets thrown out, I think. And the renewable natural gas, the fuel cells, the hydrogen, the carbon capture, the carbon credits, the annual reports of the city, all that could go away, I think. I'm just raising the question. The development agreement amendment includes very detailed requirements for the petitioner in terms of disclosure and action. It's not practical, I imagine, to add them to the zoning conditions. So that's my worry. That's one of my worries, that there will be a change of ownership and that the city will lose all leverage to require the already voluntary commitment of the petitioner in sustainability. Also, the former architect of the plan has, to the press, expressed doubts about the viability of the microgrid to actually power the entire project. Again, don't have the expertise to judge that independently, but the microgrid could plausibly struggle to meet a whole variety of demands on the site. The lights, appliances, and heat pumps are just the start. Assuming a solid oxide fuel cell system, it will probably need temperatures exceeding 600 degrees. Oops, I'm running out of time. But there's a bunch of concerns about the possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garber, and thank you for respecting the time. I appreciate that. Do we have anyone else in chambers who'd like to address us on this item? Seeing none, Manager Kelly, do we have remote participants who would like to address us?
We do. Luis Vasquez, you have 3 minutes to address the Planning Commission.
Yes, thank you. Luis Vasquez, 909 Barton Drive. For all the reasons aforementioned by Mr. Garber, I'm in full agreement with all the stipulations addressed by Mr. Garber in this instance. and agree wholeheartedly, and wish that the Planning Commission accordingly vote accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vasquez. I know.
There are no other hands raised at this time, Mr. Chair.
I will close the dedicated public comment period and read the proposed motion. The Ann Arbor City Planning Commission hereby approves the Southtown Site Plan Version 3, dated February 23rd, 2026. Moved by Commissioner Mills, seconded by Commissioner Mills, Commissioner Lee. Oh, we're punchy tonight, friends. Who would like to kick us off? It was Mills and Lee, if you didn't get that, Manager Kelly. Okay, Commissioner Lee.
Thank you. Let me ask this of staff. Does the development agreement continue with the petitioners specifically or with the land itself?
The development agreement is associated with the site plan. So if the site plan is sold, which may not be the correct term, but if the developer who owns the site plan sells it, the successors also inherit the development agreement. The variances do run with the land. Development agreements run with a site plan, a particular project, and can be reassigned or sold. But if it's an entirely new site plan, then you start over.
Got it. Thank you. And then more of a clerical question. It appears that your recommendation of approval is based on the fact that this is complying with all statutes. Is this a by right versus, I recall that we've done variances on this with specific conditions, but I'd like to better understand whether this is a by right approval or an amendment of variances that require discretion.
It is a by right approval. The property is zoned C1A/R with conditions, and so it need only to comply with the standards of the C1AR district plus the adopted statement of conditions. That ordinance is in the staff report. I don't have it at the top of my head, which it does. And that also runs with the land. So if this particular project were to go away for whatever reason or expire, it has to comply with C1A/R plus the
development agreement and conditions.
Not the development agreement,
sorry.
because that went with the old site plan.
Okay,
We're talking about in worst case scenario.
Yeah.
It would have to apply with the conditional zoning statement of conditions.
Got it. Thank you. Just to clarify, this really is saying increasing dwelling units from 216 to 289 and elimination of commercial uses on the ground floor, reconfiguration of site access, and tower above the podium. So just as a point of clarification. Thank you.
Just a quick question before I hear from other commissioners. The microgrid, however, is in the conditions, and that is with the land, not with the site plan, or is it with the site plan, not the land?
It is with the, it does run with the land.
Okay.
The conditions that run with the land are that it has to be powered by an on-site microgrid, and that it has to be less than 100 feet tall or less.
Okay. Does the wattage of it or the output of the microgrid, is that in the conditions as well? And it's going to get to my question later,
Yeah,
but I just want to understand it technically now.
I'm going to pull it up.
Okay, thank you, Planner DeLeo. While Planner DeLeo looks for that and answers me later, which other commissioners? Commissioner Dish, please, and then Commissioner Mills.
Also a question. So does this vote restart the time clock on site plan approval? Okay.
Yes, it does.
And that's for 3 years?
Yes, it is. I do have the conditions now, or I can wait.
If you don't mind waiting, Commissioner Mills.
Well, it's all connected, so either way. The question that I was going to ask is, if the development agreement, so the most recent development agreement effectively just gives more teeth, I don't know, specificity to the conditions. That's how I read it. But if that is running with the site plan, is it problematic? Like, we don't have a development agreement before us. So how does that work? Like, does that make sense? Does my question make sense? I don't know that I saw.
Yeah. So I've opened up all of the documents necessary, but it's late at night. It'll take me forever to read them. Nevertheless, I can definitely follow up specifically to see if and look at the development agreement about its exact language, if there is the boilerplate language about revised site plans. And if there is not, I can work with the city attorney's office because I do understand that's all of our intent. And the development agreement, though, is an agreement between the city council and the developer. So if work needs to be done and there's not the boilerplate language in it, we can send that second amendment to the city. We can send the second amendment to city council still yet.
Okay. I think, maybe it would be helpful to go back to the question about Commissioner Weich asked about, like, what is actually in the condition, and then that contrasts nicely potentially with what is in the development agreement. And I will look for that boilerplate language maybe while your first question is getting answered. Yeah.
Well, I want to make sure that other commissioners get a chance to speak before I take time up. Commissioner Weatherby, you okay? Commissioner Hammerschmidt, who I neglected to check in with during the very first one. It was an oversight on my part, and I do apologize to you for that.
You're fine. I told you not to talk about it.
I know, but I felt bad.
Okay.
Okay, great. Commissioner Norton? Okay, all right. So I have a bunch of questions for staff and then maybe one or two for the petitioner, just so that I can understand how this microgrid works in relationship to this new development or this new proposal of housing. But we'll start with the answer to my original question, please. Thank you.
Sure. The conditional zoning statement of conditions has actually 4 conditions. A, the maximum height shall be 100 feet, and that is reduced from no height limit. The maximum number of vehicle parking spaces for residential use on the property shall be 0.25 per dwelling unit, or 1 per 4 dwelling units. The principal use of the property shall be multifamily residential, and no more than 30% of the dwelling units may be short-term rentals. That is the 3rd condition. And the 4th is development on the property shall be powered by a microgrid with continuous operation of a minimum 60% less carbon intensity, CI, than the franchise provider of electricity for the city, parentheses. The target for development on the property is 75% less CI, close parentheses. Developer shall provide a report to the city upon request that confirms compliance with this requirement. And so those are the 4 conditions that do run with the land that are subject to any development on the property until an ordinance has been amended to change something of that nature. The development agreement, the first amendment to the Southtown Development Agreement it contains over 26 paragraphs because it's more like a First Amendment and restatement. Contains over 25. Probably half of them are boilerplate. That's based on my experience. Things specific to this one are addressed probably addressed in P22. Are actually starting in P21 for about 10 times or 10 paragraphs. I'll just briefly paraphrase, but they talk about installing the fuel cells on the property, and the first date of service is January 2035. Talks about what happens after January 2035. talks about incorporating carbon capture technology as soon as it's available. There's caveats, and it says by January 31st of each year, provide the city with annual sustainability performance reports that contain a lot of very specific information. And I believe that this is sort of speaking to, there was a plan for evolving technologies and being able to keep up, and also sort of addressing, making sure that the latest technologies are being used. So that it would be specific to the Southtown project proposed by 4M. But overall, any development on this land does have to have a microgrid that operates at that specified level.
Which is 60% of DTE, or the prevailing carrier for the units.
Yeah, the plan apparently was, the plan is, and the design should operate at 75% less, but the zone requirement is 60% less.
Okay. I'm going to go back to you, Commissioner Mills, before I go through my questions. No? Okay. So, staff first, Planner DeLeo. Can you walk us through how this revised site configuration, including the required microgrid along the east side, if I'm correct, of the site and its screening wall complies with the dimensional standards of the C1A/R with conditional zoning? And I'm asking this because when we first saw this, there was less housing, so there was 216, and I don't believe we've seen a resizing of the microgrid, but we're adding more units. I think about, 10, 20, 30% more units almost. So will the microgrid fit within the current setbacks and the screening requirements, as far as you know?
Well, I did, it's been a minute, but I did look at all dimensions, and I can get you the required dimensions of the C1ASHR, which I believe are a minimum of 10.
It's 10 feet is required. 11 is what we see here.
Yeah, I do believe that screen wall is 10 feet.
Okay, so if the microgrid has to be resized to manage the 289 units, how does that work inside this approval?
I believe the microgrid has already been resized.
Okay.
If it needs to be resized further, their engineers will have to come up with something.
And then can you just walk me through what that looks like? Does that happen at the time of construction, if they had to do it, and then it's just handled administratively, or does it come back because it might encroach on setbacks?
It would be handled, it all depends on how they would be addressing that hypothetical situation, because I do believe it's already been resized. But it would be handled in the manner that's prescribed in that table 5.29-1 of the UDC, which prescribes what development activities require what level of approval. There are, you can move a building or a wall or add a fence.
But Lockwood,
up to a certain point.
Do you remember Lockwood? They had to come back because
that was a planned unit development that, for discussion purposes, said your minimum or your maximum setback is 10 feet.
Right.
And they built the building at 9 feet.
Right.
There was no wiggle room.
Okay.
This is a conventional zoning district, and they can move the building around within the parameters of the zoning district. And if they can't, then you deal with that as prescribed in the code.
But generally, that'll be happened on an administrative side. It won't come back to the table for adjustments.
Again, it depends on how they're going to address this. The reason why it's back before you tonight and not in a site plan for planning manager approval is ultimately this building moved more than the 10 feet that we could handle in the administrative level. So maybe the response would be that the grid gets taller.
Okay.
Because I know nothing about microgrids.
Sure.
But if it needs to get wider, well, it depends on how many feet wider.
Right. But it would have to stay inside the setbacks.
It has to meet zoning.
Okay. And then because the microgrid stays with the land, if 4M doesn't take this project forward in completion, and someone else purchased the land, they would then have the requirement to install a microgrid. They'd have to maintain it according to the conditions that have been approved for this zoning, or they could request a rezoning. And if they request a rezoning, it's likely that we might be at a point where the map is clearer and C1A, thank you, Commissioner Weatherby, /R might not exist, which means this could be in transition, this could be in hub, and its uses could change dramatically. So the whole STR could potentially go away because it could be a hotel.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other commissioner questions and comments? I have more, but I'm pausing. Commissioner Lee?
Just on the development agreement, has everything been complied with so far to date?
Yes, but there have been very little triggered development. The development agreements generally have 3 checkpoints.
Yeah.
That is things that need to be complied with prior to issue of any permits. And the first permit is usually a grading permit, and they haven't, aside from demolition, they haven't really started construction. The other checkpoints are prior to the first building permit, structural permit, and then it's certificate of occupancy. So yes, they are in compliance. I say that with a little caveat that we haven't hit most of the checkpoints.
Gotcha. I'll clarify the reason for asking that question. This is also kind of murky territory for me. Generally, I'm only looking at the UDC and saying, how does this comply with the UDC? I'm only bringing up the development agreement because I am looking up this property, et cetera. It looks like they may be behind on property taxes. I'm looking at the site, and it looks like they haven't been paid. Part of the development agreement stipulates, I think, that they're supposed to be paying kind of all, amounts due to the city. This is, again, kind of a gray area for me. I'm really not sure how to necessarily approach this one, but I just want to clarify that, and again, our administrative role here is to look at the UDC and how we apply it to this proposed site plan. I'm trying to narrow my scope to that. These other things I'm hesitating to say, like, is it relevant to the matter at our administrative role at hand? I'm wondering if the development agreement is within our purview to ask about whether those things comply or not, and whether it's relevant to our adjudication of whether it complies with the UDC. So that's the reason kind of for me asking about the development agreement. I don't know the answer to that. This is slightly in kind of a interesting gray territory that I'm not sure about. So
can I clarify then
Thanks.
That are you asking that because the development agreement is not being properly enforced or actuated, that impacts our decision at the table? Is that the question that you're going towards?
Yes. I'm specifically referring to section P19. It says, in addition to, developer agrees, in addition to any other remedies set forth in the agreement, in law or equity, if developer fails to make timely or full payments to the city as set forth elsewhere, blah, 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 a lot of different words here. I'm just wondering if there is if there's a violation of that particular element in the development agreement. Yeah, I'm really just asking the question. I'm not sure. Manager Kelly.
I would not take that into consideration tonight. That is an agreement, as was stated earlier with council. Generally, we don't even bring those full form to the Planning Commission because we don't want to advertise that you would be really influencing a lot of the terms unless they're voluntarily offered or part of a PUD or something of that nature. So I think it may be interesting things to look into or consider, but they're primarily outside of the scope of this body and this decision. That would be my advice, is to set aside, I mean, if you're trying to figure out if they are, I mean, they're coming here in good faith to amend the site plan. I don't think, unless you have a reason to think that there's something misrepresented in the site plan or ability to, or that something's been, not reviewed properly, I would stick to those items. Is that helpful?
Yes, that is. Yep. Again, my general always sense is to only defer to the UDC, and there's no real references to that. Thank you.
I have a couple more questions. Did you have something, Commissioner Norton?
Well, I just want to clarify, I'm hearing that the staff has reviewed the site plan, has found that it completely complies with the requirements that we are supposed to use to approve the site plan. And I'm not hearing anything from staff to tell us that there's a reason to deny this. And it's a by right approval. So we shouldn't really even be talking about the financial status of the petitioner or the development agreement. That's not in our purview. So I guess I would say I would call the question.
Well, I have questions about the zoning, so mine are not about the development agreement. So my next question is, if the required microgrid was not ultimately installed as represented, would the approved site plan still be in conformance with the site's zoning conditions?
It would not be.
Okay, and then who makes that? That's an administrative staff decision, because it doesn't go online till 2035. So could the building be built without the microgrid actually installed to conform, and then who would be the arbiter of that decision?
My understanding is the microgrid is not delayed until 2035. It's something to do with a very specific technology that's not currently available, but that is coming.
Okay.
That they need to switch over to that technology
by that
by
point.
2035.
Okay.
But on day one, the microgrid needs to go in with the project as part of the zoning, and it needs to remain meeting that 60% less than the franchise utility. The development agreement talks about much more finer detail that I cannot answer.
Sure, no, and we want to stay away from the developer agreement. I just want to ask about the
I do think
conditions.
It's a fair, for this table, we use, for our purposes, we use the development agreement to sort of lock down promises. And that don't show up on the site plan, things very specific. It is not a requirement, for example, it's not a requirement of the UDC to be an all-electric building. But if a developer promises, it shouldn't really be attached to the zoning. That's not a land use thing, but that is a promise. And so we use the development agreement to lock down promises or off-site things, monetary parkland contributions, or easements that need to be dedicated and so forth. Then the attorney's office takes over, and there's a lot of boilerplate language, and things get added, and all the legalese. But I do think that we can talk about the promises that are made, and but we talk about them in more general terms. That development agreement will address those things. Tonight, this developer in this project, they are not proposing to change any of those elements. Those will continue to run with the land. I believe from their perspective, this site plan is a little bit more of a refinement of the original one.
Sure.
It does have to come back to you because the parameters changed beyond the thresholds of a site plan for planning manager, but they are not really, in my opinion, seeking to change the fundamental nature. It's still supposed to be with all of their original sustainability features and their microgrid, but I think it had more to do with the actual construction and the shape. The Z shape didn't work very well, so they changed it to a C, but also the footprint got smaller because the microgrid got bigger, and it changed the setbacks.
Okay. Commissioner Norton, you said something about calling the question. Did you actually want to call the question? Because I have to take that up as chair, even though I have one more question.
No, you can ask your question.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And this is for the petitioner, and I don't know which of the two of you want to answer it. Are there any elements of the required microgrid system that depend on future approvals, third-party infrastructure, or unresolved implementation details that are not reflected in the site plan revision that you submitted and that we are reviewing tonight?
So the design of the microgrid is in compliance with the most recent building code that was just approved about a year ago. So I think your question might allude to some things that would get into the way of approvals by people or entities like the AHJ. All of those have been considered in the design of the microgrid, whether it's capacity, which you didn't ask this question, but as a side note, I will tell you there's more than enough capacity to power the building.
I didn't ask that question because I didn't. Yeah, because that wasn't the question that I was interested in.
Absolutely.
I was asking a different question, but thank you.
But it seemed like that was maybe floating around, so I just
It was not.
It was just not by you, but just threw that in there. Anything that you would need to pull a permit successfully per published, adopted, in effect rules based on building code has been considered and addressed in that design.
Okay. And staff concurs? Okay, excellent. Those are my questions. Do we have any other questions at the table? Commissioner Lee?
Just as a comment, in looking at just making sure the development summary and comparison, I just want to reiterate this is a by right approval. So I'm inclined to support it. Thank you.
All right, Manager Kelly, would you please call the roll?
On the motion as presented, Commissioner Norton.
Yes.
Weatherby.
Yes.
Dish.
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
Mills.
Yes.
Hammerschmidt.
Yes.
And Weiss.
Yes.
That carries.
It carries. Thank you. That takes us to 10D, regular business. 2700 Fuller Road rezoning for City Council approval. REZ 26003, a proposed annexation and rezoning of a 6,534 square foot vacant lot from Ann Arbor Charter Township, TWP, to City of Ann Arbor, PL zoning district. There is no proposed development, and this is in Ward 2. Staff recommendation is approval. There is no petitioner presentation, so we will go straight to a staff presentation by Planner DeLeo.
Thank you. In a way, I am sort of the petitioner, sort of. And I'm presenting the staff report tonight on behalf of my colleague, Emma Berger, who, for staff efficiency purposes and late night purposes, I drew a short straw. The City of Ann Arbor is the petitioner here. Parks has purchased this property at 2700 Fuller Road. Last year, an annexation petition was sent forward straight through to City Council. We can do that in this case because there is something in state law that says under certain conditions, such as when it's publicly owned and it's vacant and it's surrounded by certain things, then the annexation can happen by resolution. And that went forward to the City Council in February of this year and is now currently at the State Boundary Commission as normally occurs. So tonight we are just asking to zone it, and we are proposing the PL zoning district. I do want to mention, I understand that the former owner was here tonight for a bit and was asking about how to go about a small memorial plaque, and we have put them, or we will be putting them in touch with the appropriate parks staff. And I am here and available to answer some further questions if needed.
Thank you, Planner DeLeo. We will now have a public hearing on this item. This is an opportunity for individuals to speak up to 3 minutes on this item. We'll first hear from those of you who are present with us in chambers, then remote participants. To speak remotely, press star 9 if on phone, or use the raise hand feature if on Zoom. For phone access, dial 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 977-6634-1226. City staff will identify callers by the last 3 digits of their phone number or by name if on Zoom. You'll hear an announcement when it's your turn to speak. Please move to a quiet area and mute any background noise. For all participants, please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. Is there anyone present in chambers who'd like to address us on this item? Manager Kelly, is there anyone remotely who would like to address us on this item?
There are no hands raised.
We shall close the public hearing and I will read the motion. The proposed motion. The Ann Arbor City Planning Commission hereby recommends that the mayor and city council approve the PL public land zoning of 2,700 Fuller Road, which has been annexed into the city. Moved by Commissioner Hammerschmidt and Commissioner Lee. Who would like to kick us off in discussion? Oh, Commissioner Dish.
Either one. I just would like staff to remind us of the difference between a nature area and a park.
That's a very good question. I do, both are owned by our city parks department, and I do believe it's the way it is managed. I think perhaps not the end definition, but a nature area is, it does contain a lot of natural features and is maintained as a nature area, I believe, whereas a park is more groomed lawn and structures, such as a pool or a golf course or a playground structure and equipment and so forth.
Thank you, Planner DeLeo. Commissioner Lee.
I support this. And then also, I'm sorry I made the screen a little worse. I don't know what I was supposed to click, but I apologize. Yeah.
Any other comments? Are we ready to vote? Manager Kelly, would you please call the roll?
On the motion as presented, Commissioner Norton,
Yes.
Weatherby,
Yes.
Dish,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Mills,
Yes.
Hammerschmidt,
Yes.
Weish.
Yes.
That carries.
Thank you. 11A is our next agenda item. There is none for other business, and that brings us to our last public comment of the evening. This is a second opportunity for individuals to speak up to 3 minutes on any issue. We'll first hear from those of you who are present with us, then remote participants. To speak remotely, please press star 9 if on phone, or use the raise hand feature if on Zoom. For phone access, dial 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 977-663-1226. City staff will identify callers by the last 3 digits of your phone number or by name if on Zoom. You'll hear an announcement when it's your turn to speak. Please ensure you're in a quiet area and mute any background noise. For all participants, whether in person or online, please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. Is there anyone present in chambers who would like to address us at this time?
I'll be real brief. Thank you, everyone on the commission, for your diligence, as always, in reviewing the documentation, listening to the public, responding to concerns, making considered judgments. So the 805, I'm forgetting the street, Oxford, thank you. Yeah, I thought that was a great discussion, and I'm hoping they come back with a better project. Just going back to where I started in the first public comment, I don't know if this matters to you. I'd like to see the sustainability reviews reinstated. If that does matter for you, maybe that's something you could make an inquiry into. Other than that, thank you again for your volunteer service.
Thank you, Mr. Garber. Do we have remote participants who would like to address us at this time?
We do. Luis Vasquez, you have 3 minutes to address the Planning Commission.
Hi, thank you. Luis Vasquez, 909 Barton Drive, 48105 in the Ann Arbor area code. Yes, thank you for all of your thoughtful consideration on all elements of business tonight. You have demonstrated your public service to a great extent, and I would only hope that, on the other end of all of this, that we all end up with a public that is educated in our system, how else can it be described? There are no words. But yes, thank you for your leadership in all of this with the CLUP and now, of course, the rezoning that needs to happen in our community. Thank you for your time. Really, it is much appreciated. And good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vasquez.
There are no other hands raised.
I shall close the public comment and take us to agenda item number 13, Commissioner Proposed Business. Is there any? I would just like to flag, since my colleagues have not, under this section, I think we would benefit from a conversation with either the fire marshal or the waste management team because this issue reoccurs at the table, that we see developments that are configured in ways that are challenging to us. And I think like Verian had a concern that was articulated around this as well, if my memory serves. And so I think it would just be helpful for us, and I wonder if that could be, if that could happen during one of our work sessions where we are short of an agenda item to see, and maybe we take them one at a time so that we don't overload, because maybe there's a lot of conversation that we need to have around the impact of these items. And I'm happy to, we could query the table for any questions in advance that we could give to staff. I think we've done that in advance, like when we had Jennifer Hall come to talk about affordable housing. We asked if the commission had any questions so that we could give to them. And I know we do that with the CIP as well. When Kayla comes, we have questions in advance so that they know what we want to talk about. So if the table is amenable and agreeable to that, I think that would be meaningful for us. Certainly would be for me, but I want to speak for all of you, as I tried to earlier, and you all gave me eyes. Okay, great. Commissioner Mills?
I'm also going back to Mr. Garber's comment really early at the very first public comment opportunity about OSI's review and kind of what that is. I think I'm just curious, again, kind of what they are reviewing. And again, I think having it be tailored to where there is some discretion probably is most appropriate. And but I'm just curious about what's happening. And or something that maybe Commissioner Dish brought up about OSI staff being a resource, or somebody being a resource, and understanding if that's something that we ought to be advertising towards developers who don't necessarily undergo OSI review. So just better understanding what the current status is.
Yeah, we've had many sort of back and forth with OSI, and they've had staff that have changed as well, and each of those departures or additions is a new opportunity for us to talk with them and say, what makes most sense? How can we fit you in a way that values your time and also is impactful to the process? So as it stands right now, OSI is invited to all of the pre-submittal meetings which are required with applicants for site plans. And that included 805 Oxford. It included probably everything that was on your agenda tonight that would have merited a pre-submittal meeting. And so they listen to the applicant's development proposal. They try to understand where the opportunities are. And then they reach out with an email inviting them to a separate OSI plus developer specific meeting that planning is invited to attend. They provide a preliminary assessment of where they think opportunity areas are. They give information on incentives that the petitioner may or may not be aware of, and they do offer to be a resource and sounding board. They offer to assist in ways that they're available to do. Sometimes that is well received by the developer. They set up the meeting, and they may or may not have new information that they were not aware of previously, and they take it and do something with it. Some applicants say, thank you for inviting me to the meeting. I know what is possible on my site, and I can't spare the the time. I can't spare to pay people to sit in a meeting, so I'd rather just do this over email. So there are mixed responses, but that we are doing on all development, whether it's by right or, it's pretty much anything with this pre-submittal. And then they really are focusing their reviews to planned unit development, the sustainability proposals for height bonuses. They were very involved with Ms. DeLeo for the item that's on your next agenda related to the sustainability height, sustainability component, affordability component. So we have tried to be a little more surgical with their involvement, and those conversations are ongoing. So, but they don't invest in a deep evaluation against A204 by right projects for your table. What we do now is we ask applicants to please provide us with a sustainability statement, and based on what we receive from the applicant, that is included into the text of the staff report. So that was also, I believe, part of the economic development resolution suite that was handed down to request that we incorporate that, and that is how we are trying to do that. It's not always perfect, but I don't think that OSI has been, disinvited or disinvolved. They're just, it looks a little different, and that's fine.
Okay, Commissioner Weatherby, I'm sorry.
Can I just add to that? I think, if I recall correctly, that we asked that those no longer be added to our packets because we couldn't, they included things that we couldn't make determinations about, and so it seemed like kind of a waste of everyone's time. So I think we need to be mindful a little bit, but I do agree that as people have changed and personnel has changed and time has moved on, maybe we now decide that they are helpful. But I think that there was some concern. I remember Mr. Leonard being like, well, you asked us not to have those, and then you asked us to put them in, and then you asked us not to put them in, and now we may be asking them to be included again. And
okay. I had one other request that I wanted to flag, but let's hear from Councilmember Dish first.
No, I just wanted to affirm that what you just described, Mix Kelly, is, I think, consistent with what we were hoping for, because it does seem like not the best use of staff time to go into this extensive review, and then we read through the stream and it says, well, they're not giving us the moon and the stars, which we cannot require. And so, that was hard for us to read it and not know what to do with it. So I think this is very great. It's really great to know that OSI is always there at the beginning, that there is an offer made, that people are actively choosing not to follow that up. Well, that's fine. Sometimes, right. But so when we have a proposal that comes and there is clearly not any tapping of any existing expertise in this city around how you manage the sorts of projects that are consistent with the comp plan, when that is an element of the special exception use application, that's really useful information to have.
Thank you, Councilmember Dish. Manager Kelly and I can follow up with Manager Leonard as well. I think it may be helpful for us to meet with our attorney in the next 6 months at an opportunity that is convenient for them, for us just to sort of review some things. I'm thinking specifically around our deliberations tonight around the SEU. And I know those don't come up very often. I was looking through the table. I was going to put you on the spot, Planner DeLeo, to say how many there are, but there are a lot because it's depending on what it is and where it is. So some churches are permitted in some zones, but are special use in others. So like an office, it's there, but residential would be a use, or a daycare center. And so we've only seen a handful of those, at least in my time at the table, a drive-through. And so I just think it might be advantageous for us to just sort of review that and what the standard process would be for how we deliberate with developers who are coming under those criteria, so that it's consistent, fair, how we treat those developments that come to the table. So it's like in the next 6 months.
I think maybe there would be an opportunity to put maybe a closed session at the end of your annual organizational meeting, which has to happen by July, I think.
Yep.
So that's coming up surprisingly
soon. Yeah, so I just wanted to...
And you'll have to have
I just wanted to
There's some
flag it.
organizational things
Yeah.
coming up that I think could be a natural fit, so I will ask Mr. Frost if he can attend.
Avail
It
himself.
would be great to solicit your areas of, your fuzzy areas, your special questions that we could send over for that as well.
Yes, I would appreciate that. Anything else from anyone else? All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councilmember Dish, seconded by Commissioner Lee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.